Welcome to another episode of Spare Time. I'm Carlos. My special guest today is my new friend, Joe.
Yay!
Joe Matysik. He's one of my customers and quickly becoming a good friend. So welcome, Joe.
Thanks. It's good to be here. I appreciate the invite.
Right on. Nobody knows who you are. You're an apparition. I tried to do some research on you to prepare for this interview. You don't exist on the internet, so
not your fault. It's very intentional.
Yeah. So tell our listeners a little bit about you.
Yeah. So the story I stopped myself from finishing the last time I talked to you was my move here. My wife and I, we had been married for a good handful of years, and then the pandemic hit, and that kind of made us realize that we liked hanging out with each other more than any other human beings, including our friends and family. So, you know, we were like, okay, well, where do we want to live? And because we spent 40 years in Arizona, we wanted the complete opposite. And that's why we went to Oregon. And again, the goal being that it was moisture related, and there's forests, which you had to drive a couple hours to see anytime you were in. I mean, I camped in the desert so often, you know, that it's just, that became the standard for what nature was. So being able to go to a place that had trees was magical. So we moved here. And again, two key points: moisture. No one was here. We lived here a month. We were here a month. And guess who visited? My mother-in-law. You know what she does while she's visiting us? While she's visiting. No, she sold her house and then bought a house. Double whammy. It was it. We're hanging out. She's literally on vacation, visiting us in our new home, in our new town, and on our couch using her cell phone. She's selling her house, and she hasn't even been here a week, you know, and she's doing all this stuff. So and again, I wanted to buy what I considered our dream house, which was enough space for all my shit, and I wanted a couple acres of forest. Now, the fact that we live on top of a hill overlooking the Umpqua is a huge bonus. But you know what else I can see in my view, Carlos? You know what I can see? My mother-in-law's house. I can see.
She wanted to be close.
She lived in Arizona. What's that, 1,200 miles away? And then she sells her house while she's visiting us, buys a new house, and then moves maybe a city block away. Again, I can see her house from my window of my living room.
Well, I'll tell you, when my wife and I got together, her whole family lived here in town. And
where do you live?
Well, we live in Hillcrest.
No, when you met her.
I lived in Sutherland.
Okay.
So, but really the part that was different for us is my wife talks to like every person in her family and all her friends from fucking kindergarten on.
I'm the most extroverted introvert you'll ever meet, man. I don't talk to anyone.
She talks to these people on a weekly basis.
Oh my God. That sounds like my mother-in-law. She has a scheduled Zoom meeting because my wife's mother's side is 11 children.
Jeez. 11
children. Now, it's irreverent to say the phrase clown car vagina. I get that. It's very irreverent. But
that's your mother-in-law?
If you think about it, when you've got 11 kids, and I think one of the recipes I heard about that she'd made, one of the ingredients was sawdust. I think it was for the meatloaf, and that was to span it out. You know, 11 kids. 11.
That's crazy.
Clown car. You know what? Just that, you know, but so she's real close to her family. They do that thing too. My family, my father has been passed 2 years now. We all hung out in Arizona. My sisters, we all hung out. We all spent time together. He passed. My sister moved to, holy shit, where is she? Colorado and then Virginia. And then I moved to Oregon. We just split. You know, I love my family. If they need a couple grand, if they need a helping hand, if they need something, I'll be there. But like, calling to shoot the shit, I don't care what they're doing. Like, I love them.
We talk to each other when somebody dies. That's when my family gets together.
Or when something interesting happens. My brother-in-law proposed to my sister. Now, in his defense, they'd only been dating 10 years. And living together for 10 years. But he proposed to her, you know, and that was worthy of a phone call. You know, we have a little chat. I'm probably going to fly out and do the wedding thing, you know? Like, it was a long time coming. I mean, so long that before my dad had died, he had asked him for his permission. He got it. Still hadn't asked her for years. And then it was like a year ago. He's like, hey, so you know, your dad's gone, and now that you're not the man of the house because there's no house or anything, it's just like, want to make sure. I'm like, yeah, man, it's been a lot. You a common law married motherfucker. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Whatever gesture this is, I wholly support it. But
you're like, you're the father of my niece and nephew. You better figure it out.
Yeah, you got a couple kids, brother. Like, you're in way deep. Like, we're way past the, can I have permission to, no. But you know what? He's a really good guy. And I was pleased that he asked, you know, like, not that I was expecting it, but it still meant that he knew I existed at the very least. But that just goes to show.
That's a good show of respect.
But we're not that close as a family. Again, the bond's strong. If there's a need, you know, if someone needs vengeance,
the respect is there, and that's what's important.
But I don't give a shit what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And to be fair, my younger sister has kids, and I don't get that. Like, I never had children. I'm 40. It was intentional. I'm not flaccid. I'm not shooting blanks. We're good to go. It was a conscious decision to not have children. And so, like, it's hard for me to connect with people, even if they're my siblings, that, you know, they're doing that thing. Like, my older sister, she moved to the middle of fucking nowhere. And for 2 reasons. She wanted to own a bunch of animals. She's got a shitload of chickens. And she wanted to be able to shoot guns off her back porch for no fucking reason other than she could. And so she moved to Virginia, and she's happy as a clam. And I'm glad for her, you know? Like, I'm really glad that she figured out what she wanted, was ballsy enough to go after it, and then was willing to iterate on her original decision once she realized the first choices were a little fucked. That's awesome. And my passion in life is not actually hobbies, it's failing to success. I love failure. I love it. And I don't mean in the figurative standpoint. I mean, I love getting fucking pissed off that I did something fucking stupid that I should know better about. I'm very passionate about failing towards success. So when I see other people do that, like my sister, trying to find her way and getting to this point where she felt comfortable with her humanity, the world she lives in, the people around her, that's awesome. You know, like, I really like hearing about that. And that's actually my favorite part of a hobby. As soon as I master a hobby, Christ, I couldn't be more bored of it sooner. It's like, oh, here's the dirty diaper, I'm done. It's when I don't know about it and when I'm struggling to wrap my brain around it. And then what I do is I create what I call my opus, which is the culmination of all my efforts into one thing. And I can look at all the points and be like, I know that because of this. This is because of this. I know the decision. I know the process. I know the aesthetic. And I have my own feel to things. Once I hit that, well, fuck this hobby. What else is going on out there? Like, yeah. I mean, you ever heard of something called perler beads?
No.
You have. You just haven't heard that phrase. You ever seen those things where they take pegs and they put all these little plastic pieces and then they iron it with some wax paper and it makes a little image? Right? You like melt all these things together.
I think so,
yeah. So you do know what it is. It's called perler beads. I got balls deep into that for like 6 months. And I made this awesome thing of Nicolas Cage that was like almost 2 feet by 3 feet. It took me 4 months to do because I fucked it up twice. And then you know what I did when I was done with it? I sold it for $50 on Craigslist. I sold $1,000 worth of perler beads for $200. And I found the next hobby. And that's just how I live my life.
Dude, you have like an endless supply of freaking fuel for your friends to fuck with you.
Dude, it's unlimited. I got really into Vietnamese fingernail painting. No, this is what I'm telling you, man. It's not just all of the normal guy shit. Oh, I like World War II and smoking meats. All guys like World War II.
Where are you going, honey? I'm going to go hang out at the freaking Vietnamese freaking
No, there were classes.
nail parlor.
There were classes at the rec center, and I went, and then I painted my wife and my mother-in-law's nails, and they were blown away. Listen, we're talking about a woman who's in her 60s. How big is a woman's thumbnail in her 60s? Not huge, not a huge thumbnail. There was a snowman, there was a tree, there was lights on the tree, there was presents under the tree. Detail, motherfucker. And you know why I had this? Hobby number 327. I painted mini figurines for Dungeons and Dragons, and I had brushes that had single horse hairs, single badger. A badger, you pluck one fucking hair.
I got into that for a little while too.
Dude, so I had the brushes, and I went, fuck it, I could do Vietnamese fingernail painting, and thus a hobby was born.
That's freaking awesome. I love it. My brother-in-law's a lot like that. He'll get into something, he'll do it, he'll get into it really hard, until he gets to where everybody's kind of like he's getting that admiration.
You get accolades,
hobby.
Yeah.
People are saying, dude, that's freaking awesome. Once he gets to that point, he kind of loses interest and then he goes on to something else. My wife's actually been joking. She said she's going to create an Etsy page for him, and she's just it's going to be like
call it shit I'm bored of.
his random crafts, and she's just going to sell whatever he creates on this Etsy page so that he at least can recop some of his money. But you're never going to know what's on there because it's going to depend on whatever hobby.
Yeah, it's random. I spent a year and a half customizing Nerf guns. And not just upgrading the internals, which are called hop-ups. I'm talking, I would go on eBay and I'd buy a lot of 4,000 watch parts. Gears, springs, arms, swings, you name it. And then you ever heard of steampunk?
Yeah. So
when that became a thing, thought it was kind of cool. Fuck yeah, I'm going to steampunk some Nerf guns. Dropped $1,000 on fucking gears. $1,000 on gears and wheels and brass, just gluing it to Nerf guns. And I took like a whole, there was awesome. A pump at 6 shots. It's a Nerf gun that shoots 6 bullets at once. And I took the pump off of it, took all the plastic off, made wood parts for it, and then put it back on. I really got really into this, and it was all I cared about. And then when I was done, when I hit the pinnacle, I haven't looked back at it ever since. In fact, if any of the guns that I own, because I had like 8 of them, as soon as they get a little broken, I just throw them in the fucking trash. I'm just like, oh, you're not doing it for me anymore. Like, move on to the next thing. Like, my heart falls in love quickly. I'll have to send
my bug assault gun home with you.
I have too. I'm a huge fan. Oh yeah, dude, I've got it. You get the bug assault with the laser on it. That shit is money.
I just got the free one they gave me at fucking SHOT Show.
Oh, that's a $60 freebie. That ain't bad. Yeah. Shit.
It was kind of awkward flying home with it, but that's all right.
You're like, it's for salt. No, not assault. Salt. Yeah. There's no A there. Just salt.
Yeah, I think the fact that it was all plastic helped out. So you brought me a bottle of scotch, which is great. I love it, dude. This is smooth scotch.
It's not pretty good, right?
But you got. I'm more.
It's a whiskey though. It is a whiskey. It's not a scotch. I was going to bring a scotch.
It's a malted scotch whiskey. It says
it does say that,
but it's not from Scotland, so it's not. Scotch.
Yeah, but it really Compass Box is the pinnacle of brown alcohol snobbery. Now, you can find more expensive. You can. But in terms of the blenders and the tasters who are really anal about this stuff, these are the analysts. They are perfectionists. They are chasing the unachievable, and they will never stop chasing it. And that's why every time they produce a new iteration, if you can afford a bottle of hedonism, I recommend you brush your teeth for 30 straight fucking minutes. Floss until your gums bleed. And then, when all hope is lost, take a sip of that hedonism. It will change your life. Now, it's a $140 bottle. It's kind of a bummer, but they are masters of their craft, and I absolutely adore this bottle. It's hard to get a hold of. Now, Oregon's cool because every bottle of alcohol from the southern end to the northern tip costs the same. It doesn't matter where you are in this state. Every bottle has to cost the same. It's a fucking law.
Yeah.
And because of that ubiquitousness of alcohol for this state, they have a database, and you can access it. You can access their fucking repository. Yeah, and that's how I found out that these existed.
Makes it that much harder to get things here.
All you have to do is talk to your liquor store and wait 4 months. That's it. Wait 4 months. Your liquor store is going to get a distribution every 4 months, not every quarter. And it's every liquor store. Any liquor store that is licensed in Oregon gets its distribution in 4 months. And if it exists here, they'll probably be able to get at least a bottle of it. Now, my guys, they got a case. I'm not telling you which liquor store it is, but they got a case of them, and it shit's amazing. $98, and it goes down real easy.
No, I like it. It's good stuff. But what I'm really excited about is this freaking clear alcohol here.
Yeah, that's the pirate jug. That's hand blown too. That jug is hand blown by a friend of mine.
So it's in a hand blown jug, but you made this stuff.
I made the cork too, actually. I hand shaped the cork out of a block of cork. But the liquid inside, yeah. So when I get into a hobby, I try to up my game. And the first time I made moonshine alcohol, I bought a 25 pound bag of sugar from Costco. It was the cheapest place I could find it. Now, normally when you buy sugar, you dump it out. So it's in a small box from a grocery store, and it's all white. right? That's the color of sugar. When you buy sugar in bulk, they got fuck all in there, right? Seriously, there's little bits of bric-a-brac. You're like, what the fuck is this? That's a twig? Like, I'm no shit. It's fucking wild what they're allowed to get away with in a bag of sugar. So after the first time I made it, I was like, I want to feel more proud of this. I want to up the ante, right? So I found a chemical producing company online. They sell bulk chemicals for chemistry students. And I bought 50 pounds of dextrose. And dextrose is fucking sugar. Straight up fucking sugar. Nothing.
But it's going to be pure.
Because I'm buying it from a chemical, I'm buying it from a chemist's website. It actually has a regulatory measure. It has to be 9.3 decimals, 0.999% pure. So I got pure motherfucking sugar. Next thing I buy, pure motherfucking carbon. The blackest, thickest carbon paste you've ever seen in your entire life. Why carbon? When yeast eats sugar, it shits out alcohol. That's the whole magic. Yeast floats around, it sees sugar, it eats it, it shits out alcohol. That's how it works. The problem is when it shits that out, in that shit is free radicals, which is not something that humans like. There's also methanol and acetone. We'll get to that. But there's all this shit in there you don't want. When you put the carbon in there, and this is during the fermenting process called making wort. So when you're making the wort, it's black. It's as black as having charcoal in there because you've got this activated carbon pulling out the free radicals. You take this fucking slurry and it bubbles for about 2 weeks. Keep it about 70, 75 degrees. Best way to make this, wait until the temperature outside is, you guessed it, 70 to 75 degrees. Put it in your fucking garage, you're fine. Well, why don't you do it inside? I'm glad you asked. It'll smell like bread. Shat itself wherever you put it's like bread diarrhea. It is the weirdest, yeastiest, and you're like, oh, I love the smell of yeast. You don't. Until you've done this, you have no idea what you're talking about, and I guarantee you it's this sickly, rot, bread shitty smell. It's just awful. So you take this thing in your garage, you let it fart itself to death for 2 weeks, and then you've got a 5-gallon bucket. Now with 5 gallons, with this mixture that I do, it's ABV, alcohol by volume. It's ABV 25%. So if I've got 5 gallons, what's 25% of that? That's how much pure 100% liquor alcohol is in that bucket. Well, how do you get the other 75% out of there? That's all distillation is trying to separate those two. And the magic of it is when you cook that slurry to boil charcoal until it turns into gas, that's like the surface of the sun. So you're probably not going to do that. Now to boil water is actually a bit higher than to boil alcohol. So as you start cooking this thing, the water is not evaporating, the alcohol is. Now the problem is when you're talking about alcohol evaporating, it's not just alcohol. We lump that into one word, right? But that's acetone, methanol, ethanol. It's all these components that make it up. So what do we want out of that? So the first thing that comes out of a still, the very first drips, that's the shit that'll make you blind, impotent, and kill your neighbor. That's called heads, and it's best used for cleaning paintbrushes or varnish, right? It is really nasty stuff. And again, the heads are mostly methanol and acetone. So then, out of this 5-gallon bucket, that's the first 1/9 of it, right? So the first 1/9 of this 5-gallon bucket is heads, and you set that jar aside, or jar and a half, at pint jars, and then you keep that for cleaning your paintbrushes and shit. Now the next ones that come out, you call them fillers or mixers. Now they're not great because they could still give you a bit of a hangover because they've still got some funk in it, but it's better. It's better than the heads, the very first jars, which are poisonous. Now have you ever heard the term sweetheart? The sweethearts is the middle run of a still. When you're running a still, that 5 gallons, once you get to gallon 2.5 of cooking that out, that's when the shit is money. That's the best stuff. It tastes sweet. You ever had Alka-Seltzer? It tastes effervescent. It's just like, whoa. Oh, the first couple sips I had were like, oh, my eyes are watering. I'm definitely infertile now. But the next sips, you're like, how is this so smooth? It's because it doesn't have any of the free radicals, any of the methanol, any of the acetone. It's beautiful. Okay, so then you get a couple jars of the sweethearts, of the hearts. You get the hearts. The next run's called, the last bit of that bucket that you cook out, that's the tails. And tails taste kind of like a mixture of, imagine if you took a cup with wet cardboard in it, and put water in it and then had a rubbed wet dog around the rim of the cup. And that's it's not great. It tastes like alcohol. You're like, oh, that's strong. But then the finish is wet cardboard and wet dog. It's not great. It's really not great. And usually when I start getting to the tails, I stop. I stop cooking it. I turn the still off. I let it cool down and I chuck the rest of that shit. So the hearts is what you want. What is in this jar right here is the hearts from one of my best runs. Now that jar was full about 3 years ago. And again, that is 85.4% or 85.4 proof. And that's using a well-calibrated parrot. For anyone else who out there cooks, a very well-calibrated parrot. Parrot's a little hydrometer parrot's a container that's part of your still that gets dripped into, and you float what's called a hydrometer in there, and it's a little glass thing with lines on it that tells you how pure shit is. So I've measured this with a really good.
Is 85%. Or 85% or 85%?
It's 185 proof. So it's about
85%.
90, 200. Yeah, 200 is full proof, right? So,
okay.
And it is the best that I can do without having a $5,000 bubble column scrubber. Because when you're doing a still, you've got this big thing and it's boiling liquid and the liquid evaporates and it hits this metal and then it starts to condensate. But what you want it to do is to drop back down into that still. So why do you do that? Well, you pack that column full of copper and ceramic bits to change how that little droplet cools. And when it cools, half that droplet shifts away, drops down, and that's less pure than the droplet that hangs out. And that droplet eventually makes its way to the top and then out the still, into the parrot, and then into the jug. So you give it a try. It
smells pretty. It smells pretty mellow.
Yeah, and here's the other fun thing. Hangovers, you can afford good alcohol. I know you have good tastes. I bet you haven't had a lot of hangovers since you've had good alcohol.
Well, my wife says I have, but I think I'm just tired in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, fuck. Getting old, man, and drinking alcohol, it's going to happen. But that headache that pushes on your soul,
that's good.
You can get blackout drunk from this, and so long as you drink water proportionate to the amount of alcohol that you have, zero hangover.
That's the key.
That's
what I've actually learned with age, is like typically when I go out for lunch for drinks or whatever, I'll order a drink and a glass of ice water.
You double fist that shit, you're gonna be all right.
I'm not that good. Like I'll usually have 2 drinks to 1 glass of ice water, but
the quality of the alcohol is huge. I mean, it's huge. And and it's not a snobby thing. I don't want any alcohol that's $30 less than a bottle. If it's $30, I'll do it. If it's less than $30, I'm going to pass. Only because the number of fusel oils, the amount of methanol and acid, the bad things that are in there, that's what makes you feel shitty.
Makes sense.
And this wasn't, I'm not speaking academically. I literally have proof in my pudding right there. I've made this shit. So, and it was for planes. It was for RC planes. I started making it for fuel. Fuel was too fucking expensive. And I was like, well, shit, I'll just make my own goddamn fuel. And then it started to get gummy because I used all of it. And I was like, oh, you're only supposed to use, because the tails has a lot of water in it, so it's not strong. And the heads has the wrong kind of alcohol, so it coats the engine with this really gummy shit. That's the hearts, the shit you want to drink is the shit you want to burn. And so that's when I was like, oh, you can only taste it. There's not a good measurement. You could get, even when you're looking at like a alcohol meter and you're trying to figure out how much alcohol there is, even that can't tell you if it's good alcohol or bad alcohol. It just tells you how much alcohol. So
you were making fuel for your RCs.
Yeah, that was how it started. And
then you're like, hey, wait a second, this is exactly the same thing as freaking.
Well, here's I'll be more specific. Here, you know what? Let's top this up. What happened was I started doing this, right? My planes would fly good, but not great. That's perfect. And I would talk to the old timers that were used to this shit and like, oh, you gotta make your fuel better. I'm like, okay, how do you do that? Like, drink it. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, you gotta taste it. If it tastes like shit, it's not going to fly as well. If it tastes good. And so I started tasting it, right? Here's the thing. I wasn't a big drinker. I went to Flagstaff, in high school, which is a hippie college. So alcohol wasn't really my thing then. So for me, I was like, well, I don't really do any. I smoked cigarettes, but that was about it. And I had to smoke. I had to smoke a cigarette to have that moonshine. It was I had to rough up my throat. My throat wasn't manly enough for this fucking moonshine. So I would do that.
I feel it burning. Yeah.
And then I was like, I found the best thing to mix with moonshine. I don't care if it's your grandpappy's best batch or your best friend's worst batch. I don't care if you hate Sprite. If you mix moonshine and Sprite and ice, you've got yourself a banging drink. And I guarantee you make that for someone who hates Sprite, they'll have no fucking clue there's Sprite in it. Guarantee they'll have no clue. They pair so, and I'm not a soda drinker either, but that pairs so well that I started making Sprite and moonshine. And that was what I do. I'd have a shot glass that was half full of Sprite. I'd catch 5 drops out of the still. I'd give it a sip and be like, oh, that's good. Okay, but this is the stuff we're going to save for the airplanes.
That's freaking awesome. Yeah, I think that. But you wouldn't want to drink a lot of it. You can tell it's strong.
Oh, so what's this?
That's probably 90
Spice
proof.
Tree, 46%.
So that's 90 proof, I think.
So this is double. This is easily double. And this definitely tastes like, but that's the deceptiveness. Does that taste doubly as alcoholic as this does? And it doesn't.
No.
And that's the deception, is this shit will put you down. In fact, not to be macabre, but the day my mother passed, my father passed, I went to my parents' house to comfort my mom. And I had given my dad a jug of moonshine. She hid that fucker from me. she knew I was coming over to the house. It was a smart call. All I remember that day is throwing my little sister in the pool, and I don't even know if she had her cell phone on her pocket. And the rest of the day's a blur. And that didn't involve moonshine. So it was a good call that she hid that. But it is, and it keeps forever. I made that. I mean, it's alcohol, so long as it doesn't evaporate, it's going to be fine. And they actually used it. For the people that listen to this podcast that still tolerate you, I don't know how many of the people that is. If you make crust, if you could find moonshine and mix it into your crust, do you know what alcohol does? It evaporates imminently. What does that mean? It means that your crust will have liquid in it while you're making it. And then when you cook it, no liquid. And for people who make crust and pies, no liquid in crust means flaky ass bomb fucking crust.
Dude, that's awesome.
That's the trick. You got to put a little moonshine with your butter and your mix and your crust. You pre-cook it. Don't put anything else in there. You got to cook so that stuff evaporates off. And then you let it breathe for about 15 minutes out of the oven till it's cold. Then you build your pie in it. But moonshine pie crust is an old-timey thing because alcohol evaporates to fuck. So whatever moisture is making your dough and your gluten strands longer so that you can maneuver it to make a crust, once you pull that out, it's like cooking in a crust made out of croissants. It's amazing.
That sounds good.
Cooking with moonshine. Makes it's a terrible to flambe with, though, because that flavor, if you're tasting it, it kind of just tastes like alcohol, like when
it kind of has a little sweetness to it, though.
And that's where brandy, brandy is, right? The idea of brandy came from the naturalization of fruit alcohol. So when brandy was coming about, the idea was we'll use these sugar producing fruits, apricot, peach, stone fruits, a lot of stone fruits.
Fermenting them, basically.
Yeah, and then cooking out the liquid if you make wort from sugar, you'll have what I just made, because that's exactly what that's from. It's made from dextrose. If you
that's
make,
what they do in prison.
Yeah, pruno, right? In the toilet. I don't know how I know that. But if you make wort from mashed up apricots, guess what it's going to fucking taste like when you cook it out? Apricots. It's going to permeate every pore of your body with apricot. And it's unbelievable because it's not sweet. It's alcohol. There's zero sugar, but the smell of apricot permeates your fucking soul. Name a fruit. I've done it with plum. I've done it with tangerine. I've done it with persimmon, which by the way, fuck persimmons. As if you do a lot.
That's not a real fruit. Dude.
No, fuck persimmons. And so, and it tastes like the essence of whatever it is. You know what it is? When you hippies with the essential oil, what they do? They blend it with water, they put it in a still, and they cook it. That's what essential oil is. So when you're doing that with apricots or whatever, making apricot brandy, you are getting the essence of whatever that is. I mean, if you want to make Christmas moonshine, that same 5-gallon bucket, water, yeast, charcoal, sugar. You know what you chuck in there? 1 stick of cinnamon. That's it. That's it. It will permeate that whole goddamn thing, and it will taste like cinnamon brandy. I mean, Fireball's got nothing on this, and it's unbelievable. And it's just because whatever the smell, the essence of whatever it is that's in there, once you distill it, it doesn't have the taste. It doesn't taste like peaches. It doesn't taste like apricots, but it smells like it.
Man.
It's fun.
I wouldn't mind having a jug of this in my freaking liquor cabinet over there.
Hey man, if you want to have a time, we'll get together. I'm ordering up a new still because the old one I have. I remember I was talking about hobbies. I try to find different ways to go about things. I'll give you here's a for instance with guns. I could have gotten into muzzle loader, black powder, wearing canvas, sleeping in shitty tents. Like, you could go that route, or I could get the newest rail gun, that Yugoslavia has produced. Like, there's all these different ranges of things. So same thing with any hobby, right? You could do this with absolutely any hobby. And what I landed on for this, I mean, obviously it was directed because of my interest in creating fuel. But once I started to dial in what I wanted, it was just about finding the level of how far I wanted to go, how much money I wanted to spend, how far I wanted to take it. And I've tried, and what I've learned from these hobbies, once I had what I consider to be an unreasonable amount of funds for irresponsible things, I had to decide where that end point was, because it wasn't like, oh, I can't afford to do this. It was more, is my wife going to shit all over me because I afforded to do this? And then it was really, where's the return on investment? And it was like, so that ROI, it's easy to calculate when it's monetary, but with joy, you're like, do I love my son as much as he's pissed me off? I don't know how you answer something like that for a human, but for these hobbies, it's a little bit easier. And that's what I'm usually trying to find, is that balance between, should I buy a full auto gun for $50,000 because it sounds cool? Or will I get just as much joy by buying a $500 gun and putting $1,000 into it until my Lego set is the way I want it to look? And that was kind of how I've always tried to balance things, even with the moonshine, like trying to find where that balance was. And I thought, oh, well, now that I make really good moonshine, I'm obviously going to make really good whiskey. You know how fucking shitty my whiskey was? It started with, I bought a 4-liter barrel, which was not cheap, and it was toasted to my specifications, and I aged it based on all the research I did, and it tasted like rotten donkey dick. It was unbelievably bad. It's like, you know what it tasted like? It tasted like having an alcoholic drink with a pickleback and then licking a doorknob. Old doorknob.
I could understand that because I'm a whiskey connoisseur. I like
You got a good spread up here.
I try a lot of different whiskeys, and that's not even half of what I've tried. But I try a lot of stuff. And these are people that are making money doing it.
Lots.
And there's a vast difference between some of them. Like, some of them are really bad.
I mean, and it's $60. Really, you spent $60 and you're like, how is this fucking bad?
So, I mean, if the vast difference between the people that are making money doing it versus some guy in his garage who's trying to learn how to do it, dude, I can imagine that you could come up with some really unpalatable stuff.
I have made some horrible... I thought popcorn vodka was going to be awesome. You could take a moment, let that sentence really seep into your soul.
What the fuck is popcorn vodka?
Well, you know what vodka is, and you know what popcorn is. Yeah. And I tried to make vodka that tasted like popcorn. And this was born out of a really long night.
That sounds like a freaking bad night watching TikTok videos.
Well, there might have been mescaline involved. Who knows with these things? But I will say, peyote aside, it seemed like a good idea at the time. We put in a lot of effort to produce it, and I threw away $300 worth of fucking popcorn vodka. It was so... Okay, you know how when you eat wasabi... Okay, hold on, let me dial that back. You eat something spicy. It either burns your tongue, your mouth, your throat, or all of them, right? But when you eat wasabi, it burns your sinuses. It doesn't hurt your tongue. Yeah. It doesn't hurt your throat. Popcorn vodka rapes the sinuses. It is a sinus raper. It will sexually violate every nook and cranny that your sinuses have. And it won't ask for permission. It will violate you. And it was the worst. And what was funny was after we did it, and me and 3 other people drank it, we're like brushing our teeth, gargling with salt water, using Listerine. Yeah, it was horrible. Do you know what one buddy did to solve it? He went in I had this trunk. It was like, one of those cardboard trunks you get when you're like a teenager from like Walmart or whatever. I called it my trunk of fun. And there was a shitload of fireworks in it. He lit off a pack of 200 firecrackers to inhale the sulfur smoke. And he was like, I still smell and taste fucking popcorn. His girlfriend, who was a part of this exploration with us, texted me a week later and goes, I just had my final. She was going to Cordon Bleu at the time. She's like, chef school.
That fucked her
Chef
up.
school. She's like, I just finally got the smell of this out of my sinuses after using a neti pot for 4 straight hours. I didn't know what a neti pot was, so I Googled it.
That's the thing that squirts water up your nose. Right?
It's a teapot that fits in a nostril that you put salt water in so that it goes through your nose, through your sinuses, and out your other nose. Which, by the way, if you do cocaine, is apparently a great way to help come down from that. But not condoning, just throwing a weird fact out there. But it also helps if you happen to come across popcorn vodka. It was terrible. It was it's, you know what happened? There was we were being creative and hypothetical. And I was like, have you ever had the popcorn butter jelly bean? And everyone was like, what the fuck?
Amazing.
And my dad loved Ronald Reagan, and Ronald Reagan loved jelly beans. So there's my 6 steps from Kevin Bacon as far as me and jelly beans are concerned. And so I knew about them. My dad got them. It was when Jelly Belly had first come out with their weird flavors, because they'd always been, jelly bean flavors, but they came out with the weird ones. And that's when the Reagan Library apparently got these things. My dad went to the Reagan Library. Long story short, we had a shitload of weird jelly beans. And one of the ones they fell in love with was the popcorn one. And it never left me. And so there was one night where I was like, what about popcorn vodka? Like, I think we could do that. Do that pop. Jesus Christ. And we had
worst idea ever.
No. The moonshine horchata, that was amazing. It was fucking magical. We made the rice milk from scratch. Like, it really was bomb as hell. And that was just using that exact Sweetheart's dextrose derivative moonshine. But it was really, really good.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think I've ever gotten that hardcore into any hobbies.
You know what? It's so I have ADHD, and everyone's always, these kids have ADD. But let me I want to preface this before I get into what this is. When I was 10, I got diagnosed. My mom got me meds, and I stopped pissing off my teachers. All right? So that happened. And then as a high school taking it, I felt like a zombie. I didn't feel like me. I wasn't fun. I wasn't loud. I didn't love the sound of my own voice like I do now. So, it's just, I wasn't as effervescent. So I've decided I'm not going to take it anymore. And then I didn't for decades. And then after my dad passed, it was 2 years ago, I was like, I want to beat his high score. He hit 69, fucking perv, Like, come on, you're gonna die at 69? Like, almost seemed intentional just for that last shitty joke, but whatever. He died at 69. I want to hit 70. That's my goal, is to hit 70. So I'm deciding I'm gonna be healthier. And I was like, all right, there's the physical health and there's the mental. To ignore mental health, you're an ass. If you think that's not a real thing, you're deluding yourself. If you don't want to address it, that's fine. You get to choose your journey as a human however you want. But to say it doesn't exist is fucking stupid. So I owned it. I was like, cool, my mental health's a part of this. What's going on? And she was just like, yeah, you really got the ADHD. She's like, no one just focuses on a thing like that for that long, that hard. And I was like, oh Christ, that's my superpower, And I was worried that if I took the meds, that my superpower of that directiveness would go away. It hasn't. For anyone that's thought about taking this, and look, we're all different. I'm not a doctor. This is not an endorsement. I'm telling you how my life went. But as a fat 40-year-old, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this shit a go. First of all, appetite suppressant. Fucking awesome. I would eat 9 times a day before I took that shit. I struggle to eat 3 times a day now. So that's great. And then I'll give you an example of what ADD is. I want you to go into a grocery store. I want you to change the channel on 9 TVs to shows you want to watch. And then I want you to tell me what's happening in 4 of those shows. You'll hate yourself, and you'll hate the task at hand. And that is what it's like to live with ADD or ADHD all the time. You've got multiple TVs playing screens in your brain, constantly vying for attention, when all you really want to do is pay attention to the person in front of you because they matter. And I couldn't. And I started taking this meds. My wife was like, you've been the best fucking listener. I'm getting banged like crazy now. I'll tell you. You want to talk about Viagra being a sex drug? Listen, guys, listen to your wife. And if you struggle with listening to your wife, take some fucking Adderall. You'll listen to her for hours. Best sex of your life. Just my PSA, throwing it out there. And again, we don't have kids to interrupt us. We could bang whenever we want in any room of our house that we want. But it's got to be the need, the want, the desire, the passion that has to be there. And you know what does it for me? Well, I'm a guy, so waking up does it for me. But what does it for her? Connection. Right? And we all have different needs. And so if I can meet that need because I'm actually fucking listening to her instead of in the back of my brain playing some Benny Hill music because I'm a retard, like that's better. That's better. So I've been taking it, and it has been an improvement. I'll say that it was surprising because I love myself, and I did before taking this medicine. I think I'm an awesome person, and it took work to get there, to like me. It took a lot of work to figure out how to like me. And then there were parts I didn't like, and then it took work to get rid of those parts, you know? And I could have just stayed the me that was that person before, but I worked really hard at it. And now that I'm the me that I am and I like me, now the goal is just not to ruin anybody else's good time.
Well, I'll tell you, and we were talking about this at lunch. I truly believe that your attitude about life, about you, just whether you're a positive person or a negative person, really does impact the way things go. And you are one of the most positive people I've ever met. And it affects the people around you, and it definitely affects yourself.
I gotta tell you, it takes work. Yeah. This is not just like, oh, he's just a happy person. Do you know how many people I don't want to shoot them. I want to bite their throat out of their living neck just because they got in front of me. Yeah. I have road rage issues, all right? I don't know what it is, but the second I get behind the wheel of a vehicle, I'm a fucking asshole. Yeah. And that's still me, though. That's still me in that head. Just because it's an action driving that's deriving these emotions, poor emotions, doesn't mean it's not me, you know? So it's trying to find out those areas and figuring out what you want to do with them. You know, you can ignore them. Lots of people do, right? You ignore them until they come to a head and the situation carries itself out, or you work on it. You acknowledge it and you work on it. And self-awareness is my favorite hobby. I'm well aware of the fact that I have man tits and I am way overweight. I'm very well aware of that.
Dude, look who you're sitting with, dude.
I mean,
I should make you feel good.
I haven't looked down and seen my cock in a few years. All right, like it's been a belly in the way for a while. But there's ownership of something like that is not this. Ownership is different from acknowledgement, right? Acknowledgement is awareness of the situation. Ownership is finding your place within that situation. And so for me, it was all about trying to find ownership within this existence, in this world. And once I found that, it was so easy to be positive. I mean, your whole crew laughs their asses off whenever I get a new item in. And that's because I act like a 14-year-old kid who just got his first beat. You know why? Because I know how to live life. Have you ever seen a dog who sees its owner? The owner just left 40 minutes ago to go to the grocery store, and they get back, and the dog's like, "It's Bill! Holy fuckers! It's Bill! I love Bill!" You know, and you're like, "Bro, it's gone for 40. I was down the street."
Yeah.
I live my life like that dog.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, your mental attitude, the way that you approach things, it impacts your whole life. And I honestly just discovered that just a few years ago myself.
That's surprising because you seem like a happy person.
Well, I've always been kind of a happy person, but I was also very down on myself. You know, I told you when I met my wife, I introduced myself to her as, I have the worst luck in the world.
Yeah, you told me
You're going to have to work twice as hard for everything, and you better get used to freaking things not working out the way we want them to. Why she stuck with me after that, I have no idea. But that's that's how my attitude was. I mean, I was fully expecting for nothing to ever work out for me. And when you think that way, that's how things go.
You know, the problem is people let things go. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that, because my wife called it out. We were both really tired. We busted our ass. Our brand new house, we're ripping up carpet. There's probably asbestos. I probably lost 10 years. I'm going to have mesothelioma. It's fucking, it's written.
Maybe
it's
you
done.
can be part of a class action
You know,
lawsuit.
whatever. Yeah. So for my kids, I don't have. They can get that money. So I'm standing there and my wife, and we're exhausted. We're exhausted. I smell like an old foot that died in an old armpit. Like and I'm standing in our living room that has no furniture except for 2 shitty camping chairs. Cause my 290 pound ass is on my knees, ripping up 2,500 square feet of flooring and putting in my own flooring. I'm an IT guy. I'm not a flooring guy, but I couldn't afford to pay someone. I couldn't justify pay someone $15,000 to put in flooring. I couldn't. So I did it myself. So we're busting ass. I smell like a dead armpit in the butthole of a possum. I'm standing at our windows, and we've got these 12-foot, 14-foot vaulted ceiling. The whole 14-foot vaulted wall of our house is glass. It's stunning. And I'm standing there staring at it, and my wife comes out, and she's grumbling. She's like, "But you just won't let a good sunrise go, will you?" And that was poignant for me. I won't. Yeah. Did I wake up with atomic diarrhea? Yes. Did I have such bad wiping that I needed Neosporin just to finish the last 2 wipes? Yes. Was I also hungover from poor life choices on top of my fat 290-pound ass on my hands and knees doing this flooring? Yes. Did I still take a moment at 5:30 in the morning, feeling like shit, to be in awe of that sunrise? Yeah, I did, because it was amazing. And I can't stress to you, I'm not a wholesome person, in case you can't tell how much I've sworn. When it comes to knowing how life or existence or afterlife works, I have no idea, and I'm skeptical at best. But I am a professional at the moment. I'm a professional at it. And it doesn't matter if it's 5 a.m., hungover, just took 1,200 milligrams of ibuprofen, because your tubby ass is going to dig back into this floor you are not qualified to fucking install. But I took 10 minutes to really appreciate that sunrise.
Dude, I love that. It's
and
awesome.
my wife did that too. Now, I want to say this. I am not a special person. It took work, and I'll tell you what that means. When I woke up, I had severe cotton mouth, right? You're just shitty. You know, you smell like an armpit. You worked really hard the day before. You're just like, everything fucking sucks. You know, like, you're in such a bad mood, you turn on a blowjob. Like, that kind of mood, right? You have a choice right at that moment. You have a fucking choice to let the past of the day before dictate your mood for the day ahead, or try to make yourself happy right then and there. Now, yeah, of course, all of us immediately go, oh man, a Big Mac, a tall glass of Coca-Cola, and a line of cocaine would really hit the spot right now. And I understand. I understand where that thought comes. Yeah, that's what everyone thinks. It's what everyone thinks. Big Mac, Coca-Cola, bump of Coke. And you know what? Even if you don't have those things, you could still piece together the moment that's there to appreciate. Now, let's give the example of that amazing sunrise. I didn't make that. I didn't even foment that, right? I didn't do something to make that sunrise happen. What I did do was seize the moment. Well, what does that mean? I smelled like fucking shit. I felt like fucking shit. And instead of trying to assuage those baser needs, I saw a moment that was bigger than that. That was, you know, have you ever heard the term a mandala? Yeah. It's like, yeah, when they make those big things out of sand and they sweep them away. That moment is a mandala. And you can either shit all over it, or you can try and make something of it. Now, what if there wasn't a badass sunrise? How do you turn this around? Well, now this story is about how I went to the store and made a croissant breakfast sandwich and cooked 4 pounds of sausage. Yeah. You build your moment. Now, I didn't build that sunrise, but I saw the opportunity and I took a moment for it. And I honestly think that is why I'm happier than a lot of my friends.
Well, and that's what I'm saying.
I'm not wealthier than a lot of my friends, but I'm happier.
It's all about what your focus is on. I mean, if you spend all your time focusing on freaking I'm tired, my back hurts, my freaking wife's bitching at me. Freaking, if you spend your time on that stuff, then yeah, you're gonna have a shitty attitude.
But it's easy. It's easy to dwell.
Well, yeah, that's the easy stuff. You're gonna dwell on that, and you're only gonna see that tomorrow is gonna be more of the same shit, and you're gonna be negative, and you're gonna eventually. That's what you're gonna train your mind to do. But if you focus on those minutes of good stuff, or you focus on, yeah, you stunk, you're doing shit you don't know, but the minute you're done with it, you're like, fuck, dude, look what I just did.
Unless you did it wrong.
It doesn't even matter, because no matter what, whether you did it wrong or not, it looks 100 times better than when you started. And you did it yourself.
I mean, 2,500 square feet is a lot of square feet.
Yeah.
And I did all of it. And the house, there's not a square room in that motherfucker, right? And a square is equal sides, right?
Honestly, I don't think any house has a square.
It's not. Yeah, that's what I'm learning, right? I'm 40, but I've learned that a few houses, like, there's not a goddamn one that's actually squared. But that was, I like to tackle, when I was in my 20s and 30s, I had something to prove. I needed, how do I put this? I felt very smart, and I had a desire to prove to my peers that I was as intelligent as I felt. So anything that I did had to be over the top. When you make dinner for your friends, hamburgers and hot dogs, everyone's fine with that.
Yeah.
I spent 4.5 hours making a beef Wellington.
Dude, I'm doing I'm the same way now.
And it's not about whipping my dick on the coffee table at a high school party, right? Which, to be fair, it's a baller move. If I had a big schlong, I'd swing my hammer out in public too. Yeah. But I had to swing my food skills instead. But that's
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I know what I can leverage here, and it's not dick length. So that was the thing. It was like making that, but I had something to prove. And now, that was my 20s and 30s. I'm 40 now, so I've proved it a bunch. And now it's just like, this life is whatever I want it to be. You know, and what's interesting is because that's me at 40, all the rest of my friends at 40, you know what their narrative is? It's their kids. It's 100% about their children and what they're doing. My hobby, my life interest is me, right? And I've chosen my wife, Katie. I know I haven't talked about her much, but like, honestly, if there's a reason I haven't talked about her much, she's the thing I'm most obsessed about.
Yeah.
Whiskey, food. I mean, guns is a new hobby. This is new as of a few months. Like, I mean, I've got hobbies. I've been playing guitar for 30 fucking years. I bet you. Let's see. Do I have a castanet in here? Yeah. Here.
Dude, for a few years now, I've been trying to teach myself how to play that.
Freeharmonicalessons.com. That's where I learned. Freeharmonicalessons.com.
It's in my door of my truck.
No, I'm upset. I love life. I have a zest for it, and it at first it was a curse. Now that I have Adderall in my life, I feel less compulsively driven towards these things, which means I can enjoy my downtime. The me before Adderall would never have fucking done this podcast, because sitting in this chair more than 30 minutes would have been hell on earth. Now, I'm a normal fucking human. Of course, I got a fat butt. I can sit here for a couple hours. We're good. My love handles hurt. They've been jiggling all day. Like, no, it's different. But that being driven, that life pursuit, I think it has a lot to do with not having children. Even from an early age, I didn't want kids. And that's what I told my wife when we started dating. She's like, I have no interest in kids. And her mom had a daycare, and she had to help run the daycare. You think she wanted fucking kids? Like, she's the perfect woman for me. So, you know, we both have our pursuits. Now, she's not a hobbyist. Now, for someone who's a hobbyist, marries a non-hobbyist, I'll give you an equation. Someone who's very religious and someone who's not religious at all. You could see the kind of odd couple scenarios that would pair up. It happens with hobbies too. She was into Irish step dancing, right? Just because she's Irish. She's fucking hobby. She has the curly, bouncy locks and the legs, and you don't even know about my wife, but she's a great looking Irish. She was great at what she did. I went to Ireland. Found the best handmade leather Irish dance shoes, and I ordered them for her, you know? Like, I get, once I found out she had a hobby, I get balls deep into whatever it is that's the minutia, and then I want to get her the best fucking thing I can, you know? But she was never into hobbies. And then we moved to Oregon. You know what her hobby is now? Chickens. Carla, she is obsessed
well,
with
you can
chickens.
bring me all the eggs you want, because I'll eat the shit out
man,
of it.
hey, I make a wicked creme brulee. You like creme brulee?
I do.
I plan on making creme brulee with all my chicken eggs, so I'll bring you some in a mason jar. And here's the best part: on top of the mason jar, there's a little plastic pack of what's called tornado sugar. And what you do is you open the jar, you sprinkle that tornado sugar on, and then you take a blowtorch and you melt that on top. Doesn't matter if you're eating it the day I give it to you or 4 months from there, it'll keep. So I have perfected the mason jar creme brulee. And as soon as we have chickens, I'm cranking those fuckers out.
All right. We had to take a little break there because I had to pee, dude. I can't. This always ends up being at least 2 hours.
Hey, it happens to the best of us, man.
I can only go like an hour without peeing.
I held some of my favorite stories back. I told you about my mother-in-law moving in a block from us after we moved 13,000 miles from everyone else we know. Here's another good one. So this is formative, right? Because back when I was in college, I thought I was a badass. And the problem with that was I was good looking. I was in decent shape. I had a wealthy family.
So you've really gone to shit.
Yeah, fucking straight downhill, man. Straight. I didn't even have man tits back then. I was primo grade shit. So like I thought I was pretty good, and I was also very well read. One of my favorite hobbies was being a voracious reader. And at first, I only read stories that interested me. Then there's a shop called Bookman's, right? They sell used books. I would just buy the thickest fantasy novel. If it had 800 pages, beautiful. That'll keep me busy for a week.
I've only known you for a few months. But based off of the little bit of information I've gathered from you, you had to have come from a well-off family.
Oh, yeah. No, they didn't start well off, right? Like, my dad was beyond dirt poor.
Nobody starts off well off.
Well, no. I've got a couple buddies who are 4 generations rich. So even their dad was in a rowing club in Yale, you know? Like, now, he tells a story about how he had to bus boxes between these 2 offices to afford the paddle for this rowing thing, like, and that was his tribulation, you know, like, I had to go 3 miles over a paved road into a air-conditioned building, you know, like, that was...
And the golf cart only worked like 3 days a week.
It had 2 gears! It was third world! So, like, that's the people, right? But, like, I didn't know what it meant to be grounded before I was 25. And then when I started talking to my father about money and their assets, because he was like, you're going to be the executor of the estate and all this other stuff. What the fuck's that word? Like, that was when I learned, oh shit, I was a spoiled ass child, you know? Like, but my dad got off on denying things to us that he felt were superfluous, you know? If we wanted a book, if I wanted a karate gi, or if Kelsey, my younger sister, wanted professional point ballerina slippers, she bought them. But if I wanted a Yoo-hoo chocolate drink, my mom would tell me to go fuck myself. If Kelsey, my sister, wanted a My Little Pony, you have 3, shut the fuck up. So, like, there was a limit, you know? Like, but if it was experiential or developmental, my parents paid for any of it and all of it, you know? Camps, classes, you name it. But it had to be proactive. It wasn't, I want to put you in golf class. Like, it had to be, now that was my dad. He forced me into golf. Can
you imagine if you're a fucking kid and you know what you know as an adult? Can you imagine going back and how much knowledge and shit you could have?
I'll be honest with you. I'd be a piece of shit. And I'll tell you why. I would 100% move into finance. I would trade on futures and deliverables. I would ruin thousands of people's lives, and I would be rich, filthy rich. And it's not because I want to be a bad person, but it's because I know how easy it is to do all of that. And I had 0 moral compunctions when I was younger. Now, My life is literally perfect.
But I'm
fat, and I wish I wasn't, but everything else, and maybe a bigger cock, but everything else is good, so I wouldn't want to mess with that. You know what I mean?
I'm not saying just the financial benefits of it. I'm saying everything you know now.
Okay.
All of the stuff that you know is important in life. Take it back to when you were a kid, and your dad's saying, okay, I can understand you want that. I'll pay for it. You could learn so many things and do so many things. But as kids, we care about freaking how can we get what we want right now.
Also, when you're a kid, you think base. What do you want to be? Priest, policeman, fireman, like banker. You don't think of like...
I didn't have any friends that wanted to be priests.
No, but still, like, I wanted to be a priest at one point, to be honest with you. I really did. Not because I was religious, but because people trusted them. And they got to talk to them about advice. One of my favorite things to do is to give advice to people. And the reason that I'm passionate about that is if I am willing to give advice, it's because of one simple fact. I have fucked myself in the butt with that fact wrongly multiple times.
I think that's the only thing that makes people feel like they're allowed to give advice on something.
They fucked themselves over on something.
They didn't fuck up on something. There's no
building that
right
AR. I built an AR with you. Do you know how much money I spent on parts that didn't go on the AR? Give me a number. Give me a number. What do you think I spent?
I think you said like $1,000
that I didn't even put on the rifle. That's sitting in a box next to the finished rifle.
That's like 4 more ARs that you got to build now.
I'm just kidding. I've given half of it to Leon. I don't want to. I'm over it. You know, like I built my AR. I don't need to build 5. And that's the funny thing. I see guys like I've got 6 AR-15s. I'm like, fucking why? Well, this one's purple. Oh, how many cars do you own? Is one purple?
So I'll tell you what.
It makes no sense to me.
For me,
and I love guns.
I'm a gun guy now. I never was before I became a gun store owner, but I am now. And honestly, I became that way because I feel obligated to be. Because what kind of self-respecting gun store owner isn't into guns?
You said into guns. We just talked about this earlier. The point of a gun is to push a projectile from the gun to another point.
Yeah. And
that's called shooting, if I'm not mistaken. And both you and I have spent a lot of money on guns, and we almost never shoot them.
Yeah. That's the part. I don't shoot.
Some people fuck for the orgasm. Some people fuck so that they get bragged about afterwards. Some people fuck just so they feel a little less murderous at that point of the day. We all have different reasons that we fuck, and we all have different reasons that we gun.
Yeah.
It's weird that we're in the same boat, because I assumed someone who is passionate enough about guns would be the person who owns a gun store. And then you told me, like, I just like put them together. I rarely ever shoot them. I'm like, well, holy honestly, fuck, it sounds like you're punking me. That's how I feel.
I don't even put them together.
Because Pete puts them together.
I have gunsmiths.
No, I'm sorry. I make decisions and I delegate menial tasks to professionals.
So I've been...
not menial. Difficult. Yeah. Difficult tasks to professionals.
My whole life, the only thing that's been consistent my whole life is I'm kind of an artist. I like to draw. I like to paint. I like to make stuff.
I fucking suck at drawing. Are you good?
That's what I've always done. I picture a freaking gun in my head. I order all the shit. I get a pile of parts. I send them to my gunsmith and I say, this is what I want. And sometimes I'll keep it. Sometimes I'll put it on the wall for a stupid price and sell it. Because there's always going to be more. It doesn't matter.
I can't believe how quick my AR sold. I had an Anderson lower, for fuck's sake. I can't.
Dude, it doesn't matter.
But that's what I learned. No one does homework. No one does homework.
I'm blessed. My freaking salespeople understand. My people that work here understand that it's about what you put into it. It's not about what the base.
Leon is 95% of why I've done a majority of my purchases here. Because, like, first of all, he has his videos on his phone that shows me what he's using. And I'm like, wait, that's the rail and the can we're talking about. It sounds like you're shooting a BB gun.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, we can get you set up today. Fucking buy it. Like, it's just like, it's that connectivity, you know, like, and I've gone, like I told you, gone to other gun stores and I've been really disappointed, even to the point, there's this place called C2 Tactical in Arizona. It's now world renowned. And probably because they have $4,000 worth of air conditioning in every fucking shooting bay. Now, seriously, you could fire...
People go there because it's fucking hot as shit outside.
Dude, you could take a 20-round banana clip for a 12-gauge shotgun, empty it, and there won't be the smell of gunpowder.
Nice.
It's unreal. You could burn a pound of fucking FFE and not smell a thing. And everything's so clean it looks like a goddamn Apple store. Now... did you spend 2x for range time and bullet cost? Yes, you did. But but so I've been to the pinnacle of it as well. And honestly, what makes me happy, having an idea, seeing it come to fruition.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, like I bought 6 fucking VFGs for this stupid. Do you know how much this was? Guess. You're pretty good at this game. What do you think I spent on that?
On that.
It's metal. It's metal. This comes off right here. What do you
can't see what we're doing, but he bought a Skeezy Scorpion. He's tricking it out to be a freaking fun toy.
I wanted it to look like something a blonde bad guy from a 90s movie would carry. You know, like something from Die Hard would be like,
right out of heat.
Du spitast mi naisha, you know, and you're like to see this guy with this like really tactical black rifle that's short as fuck. Like I wanted something like that. And that was the vibe I built off of this. But this is $50.
Yeah.
For this thing. I bought 5 of these for this rifle. Do you know what the other 4 are doing? They're fucking off in my sock drawer right now. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll probably end up giving them to Leon too. But the whole point is once I look at all the options that are good, and I know they're good because I saw them online, and I own them so I know it's true, and I put them on the gun so I know it's verifiable, and I find the one, everything else was just the cost. So that handguard, although it's $54 online, that was $300 because I had to buy 5 of them to find out. Now, why would I do that? Because I'm 40 and I have had the experience in my life where I got one of the thing and I wondered whether or not this was the penultimate Joe thing. This is the only life you get. There's a decent chance I die leaving your office today. My wife's going to come pick me up.
I don't know if I'd consider that decent.
No, decent. It's decent. Car accidents, you die. Like it's I'm going to put my seatbelt on.
30% chance.
You know, it could happen. But if I didn't live today up, and I think about this because my father passed away and he had in his bank account multiple commas. We'll just put it that way. He had multiple commas. My mom's still alive. And I told her, I'm like, spend this fucking money, bro. Dad worked his ass off. He didn't spend it. He was a fucking retard. Mom, spend this money. Get cocaine and hookers in Mexico. And my mom's like, I'm 70. I don't want cocaine and hookers. Whatever you want then. Sanka? Ovaltine? I don't care. You want to do a line of Ovaltine off of some schlong in Puerto Vallarta? I don't care. Like, just live it up. And so that's what I'm trying to do when just I buy 5.
Don't make him be your stepdad.
Yeah, no, fuck no. Well, she also knows that I'm, not only do I own a lot of good, high-powered, long-range, silenced firearms, but I'm also really good at the technical side of things like time and date stamps on security cameras. Now, I'm not trying to implicate myself, but if there was a worse person to fuck over than me, I haven't met them. But I am the person who asked my mom to go to dating sites. It was a year. I waited a year, called my mom. I told her I thought she started dating. She said, I don't know. I'm not ready. I'm like, you don't have to be ready. I just need you to know that your son, because I'm the head of the house, your son is telling you, it's okay
right with you.
Get your fuck on, Mom. Like,
yeah.
She's a human. And not only that, but she's a great human. She's a really good person. She's interesting. She's funny. She's insightful. You know, she's a brilliant, amazing person. And I'm like, don't deny the world. You're awesome. And don't let my sisters, oh, what are they going to think? Dad just died. Mom, it's this life.
What do you have for siblings?
I'm the middle child. I got kinda. I got an older sister, I got a half sister, and I got a younger sister. And the half sister was from infidelity. And what's funny is when my mom found out about that, her condition, because normally it'd be, I'm leaving you. Her condition was, she's family, motherfucker. Seriously, that's what my mom did. You want to talk about a stronger example of a person, not just a woman, of a person owning whatever it is that there is to own. Yeah. She goes, you're a fucking moron piece of shit. And my dad was like, I know, and he's like, she is going to be part of our family. Now, I didn't know this when Alex first came over, that's her name, and we hung out, right? Like, and then I did know. And then when she would come, it was cool because it was like, we knew how she came about, right? It wasn't a mystery. Dad fucked up. And and this is our sister. But my mom was like, you will love.
I picture siblings just being like.
And my mom's like,
totally joking about that shit.
Oh, we did. Yeah. We did. I make it like, oh, Dad couldn't keep it in his pants. I'm glad he couldn't, Alex. Otherwise, we wouldn't know you. You're like, it's just that kind of shit. But we're all very irreverent people. We have that similarity. Maybe it's biological. I don't know. But like, she was a hard thing for it's a hard pill for anyone to swallow. And my mom's response was, that's our fucking daughter. And now we're co-parents. I won't not mention any more names, but her mother, my mom was like, well, we're co-parenting with her. You're flying her out at least twice a year. We're going to the zoo. We're going to the science fair. We're going to the musical MIM in Mesa. We did so much shit with my half sister, like so much. And honestly, like,
well, that's awesome.
As an adult, it's fucking amazing.
If you wouldn't have, you probably wouldn't even hardly consider her your sister.
No. And plus, even at that time, my dad was quite wealthy, and she wasn't, or her mom wasn't. So, like, it was that other leg up as well. And he paid for schooling. Like, he did right by that, And what that taught me was, first of all, you fucking moron. It's not that hard to keep it in your pants. Plus, I know you might think your wife's not into it. If anyone who's listening to the podcast, if you go to your wife and you tell her, I am desperate for sex, it's all I could think about, help me fix this, she might come to you with a board game. That's true. But often she might be like, okay, I could do this for you.
She's like, I've been waiting for you to tell me that for years.
Right. Or if you're a woman listening to this podcast and you feel like the same thing with your husband, it doesn't matter the gender, right? It just matters the position and the desire. And so long as you do the magic sauce, you'll win. I've had the magic sauce my whole life. You have the magic sauce too, whether or not you call it that. Magic sauce is a simple thing that we fail at as humans time and time again. It's communication. That's it. You can be on total polar opposites at the start of a conversation, talk for 4 hours, find out how much common ground you actually have. Because at the end of the day, you're both motherfucking human. And then you'll see that divide, it gets real slim real quick. Real quick. Now, just because I am interested in gardening and your hobby is hula hooping, that doesn't make us incompatible. I guarantee you we both like taking a good shit in the morning. Who doesn't? And it's not just, it's that, now no one likes wiping. Obviously wiping sucks, but the feeling of that shit, and as you're taking it, you're like, oh, that's a big one. What did I eat yesterday? We all do this shit. We all shit. We all take a shit.
Okay.
And we all can celebrate it.
You on that.
Oh?
Yeah. Women do not shit.
Then, I hate to break this to you.
No, don't ruin it.
Apparently.
I'm telling you right now, women don't fart and they don't shit. In Carlos's mind, that is not happening.
My wife is my best friend, and I can promise you, my best friend farts and shits.
No.
Not often. But you know why? That's because women don't make poor life choices with food. No woman has ever looked at a dozen extra spicy hot wings and gone, fuck it, let's roll the dice. They don't, because they're smarter than that. We do. And then after we do, we go, I'm a little hungry. Those jalapeno poppers sounded good. And then the next day we wonder why the Virgin Mary is bleeding tears of blood out of our asshole. We wonder. And there's no wonder. It's because you ate a pound of toxic shit and it's trying to come out of your 40, 50-year-old sphincter. That's the science.
Dude, I'm Mexican. I'm immune to that stuff.
That's bullshit, and I know it. I know it. The only thing that makes someone special if they're Latino is that they don't complain about spicy. They still have it. They just don't complain about it.
Dude, I don't even notice.
That's bullshit. You lie to yourself.
Dude, I've been trying to tell my employees I'm gonna order the freaking Hot Ones gauntlet, and we're all doing it.
Can I tell? Listen, I've done it. I'm gonna tell you something.
It's mandatory.
It's fun. It's fun. If you want to suffer the next day, it's up to you. It's up to you. If you want to suffer, eat the bomb. Eat the bomb.
I've eaten it.
You did?
Not even for the Hot Ones challenge. We just bought it because it said it was the hottest.
It tastes like asshole.
It's horrible, yeah.
Have you ever spilt a liquid battery? Like a car battery that has liquid in it? It tastes like pennies mixed with ketchup, mixed with arsenic, burnt with kerosene. That's what it tastes like. And that's the same thing. It's the same fucking smell, flavor.
I will say, out of all the hot sauces I've
is...
ever tried, that is the worst tasting. It's horrible. It is purely just for heat. The flavor is horrible.
If you ever would like to torture someone with spicy food, if you have one of those friends that, I can eat anything spicy. I have a friend, he's a friend now, that works in a chemical lab. He became my friend because I needed chemical grade dextrose for making my fuel, right? Do you know what else he can get chemical grade? Capsaicin.
Capsaicin, yeah.
So if you want pure, 99.8% pure capsaicin liquid, we can get it to you. Now, what's funny is this is interesting. If you take a Q-tip and you dip it in there and you put it in your mouth, it's not terribly hot. You'll have the worst indigestion of your entire life, and you will have an explosive asshole. You've never felt, you can feel your heartbeat in your neck. You can count your heartbeat in your prolapsed asshole after you eat this shit. Now, what's crazy is, again, you put it on a Q-tip, fine. If you put it on anything carbohydrate, a chip. Now, if it's a chip made of almond meal, it won't work. It has to be an actual carbohydrate, like a wheat flour, tapioca flour, something. And you eat that, it will blow you'll hallucinate. You will hallucinate. It's so spicy. And this is coming from, I went to a hippie college. I had a hippie college experience. So I've had some hippie college things. And pure capsaicin will hallucinate you harder than, but it's not fun. Right? You want to peyote, mescaline, mushrooms? And by the way, if you have PTSD, get to a clinic that does ketamine studies immediately. You don't need to suffer anymore. I understand it seems sketchy. I understand it seems like a drug. I understand that it seems like it's not conservative. And I get that what I'm saying seems like a really passionate PSA. It is. I have friends that are in the upper echelons of our military in different divisions. They all have a lot of demons that they've had to deal with, some better than others. There are some friends that we can't talk about certain things or do certain things. That was 10 years ago. Now, we can joke about anything. Why? Ketamine. 100%. They have all done this ketamine therapy, and it has worked for them immensely. I'm not a doctor. I haven't actually done this for myself outside of one rave and an electric dance concert. But I'm telling you, these guys who were they were hard motherfuckers. And not only that, but they lived through their traumas and were successful people, but they carried their trauma with them. They did the ketamine therapy for 3 weeks. Their trauma is not even something that's on the front of their brains anymore.
And you were in the military too, right?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, I thought you were.
No, I was not. I've done some consulting for some security areas, but that's it. I was not actually in the military, and I'm very passionate about that because stolen valor is gay as fuck.
But you have quite a few friends that were in the military.
Oh, dozens, and not just in the military, Rangers, Marines, French Legion. Like I've got friends, and not just American military. I've got friends throughout all of it. And a lot of that has to do with my tech experience, was the reason, because a lot of them need a lot of tech for surveillance, and I'm really good at logic. And when it comes to, I'm not 100% sure how I'm supposed to, when it comes to pinpointing a signal, there's ways you can do it, and then there's the ways that you can be successful and get caught. And I'm really good at signals that don't get caught. So that was my association with all of that. And then really it was, so I had a lot of, so I didn't have a wealthy upbringing because my family wasn't wealthy until my dad got wealthy. My dad wasn't wealthy until he was well in his 40s, and I was like a teenager. So like the groups that I stayed in, they were still middle class the whole time. But because they had a leg up when they became upper class, and a lot of my high school and college friends, they're worth, 6-7 figures, right? Really big money. They fucking suck as people. They're uninterested. You know how you said you buy a bunch of things and then you give it to your gunsmith to put it together?
Yeah.
You still Googled what parts you should put on it, right?
Oh, yeah.
These are the kinds of people that go to a gun specialist and go, I want something that looks cool. I'll build that for you. And then they do what you do. That is too many steps.
Well, those are actually the people that just buy what I build.
That's too many steps away from Kevin Bacon for me, right? Like that's too many steps away from the point, the purpose, the epicenter of existence. So when you do that, you become a shittier person. I just tell you, I got friends that work for Stearns. I got friends that work for Berkshire Hathaway. I got friends that work for big names, I mean, Vought. Like I have friends that make they are really shitty to be around. And if they hear this podcast for some strange reason, none of them would be like, well, fuck Joe. They know they're shitty people to be around. They really do.
They're like, I'm trying, man.
No, they're not trying. Yeah. That's the thing. They're so rich. They don't fucking try anymore. Yeah. They don't. And that's the problem. I've had to fart for about an hour. Do you know why I didn't fart in here? Because it's not cool. They're the kinds of people that just fucking fart in here and figure out the consequences later. That's the problem. So that's when I decided to, like I said, trim the fat. And that's when I started going to all my buddies.
You're allowed to fart as long as you're not a woman.
Oh, I've got a big turd loaded. You don't want that.
Don't prairie dog on my chair.
No way. But that was the difference is when I started talking to my buddies from high school who had gone through the military. And I'm like, holy Christ, you were a Ranger? That's not just something you say. I've got a buddy who's a SEAL, and all my buddies love to shit on him, just like, oh, that faggot, oh, you wait to be an Army's taxi. Like, it's like, but that's what they do, right? Racist jokes in the military are okay. They're okay. As soon as you leave the military, even if you were military, they're not okay. And they all agree to that. They're like, look when your job is possibly dying, you're allowed to do whatever you want.
Sense of humor is you gotta have it.
Dark. MASH was tame compared to what they were actually saying.
So I've got a friend, speaking of Navy SEALs, when I was in 5th grade, I met this kid. His name's Jesse. I haven't seen him in years. His name was Jesse. I met him. The day I met him, he introduced himself and told me, he's like, hey, my name is Jesse, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. My uncle's a Navy, or my cousin or uncle, I can't remember if it was his uncle or his cousin, told me then, in 5th grade, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. And when you're a kid, you just hear shit. You're like,
again, wanted to be a priest. For anyone who's listening to this episode, I'm sure you're going, that guy wanted to be a priest? Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, well, so he introduced himself, and in his introduction told me, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. My cousin's a Navy SEAL. And that's all I've ever wanted to do. That's what I'm going to do. Straight up out of high school, joined the Navy, became a Navy SEAL. Last time I saw him was about fucking 20 years ago.
So how old was he? His 30s?
He's my age.
So but he was in his 30s then.
When I saw him last? Yeah. No, he was 20s, late.
Oh, okay.
Probably 25.
So he's hard as fuck then. Right?
So I ran into him at the mall here in town. He was here visiting family.
There's a mall here?
Not anymore. There used to be 2.
There was 2?
Yeah, there was 2.
Was that when lumber was hot?
It's just when malls were hot.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, ran into him. Last time I talked to him, like I said, was 20, 25 years ago. He was learning his 9th language as a Navy SEAL. He became a Navy SEAL interpreter. Was his main job as a Navy SEAL.
Nothing impresses me more than when someone knows more than one language.
But I gave the guy a hug. I hadn't seen him in years. I gave him a hug. Told him it was great seeing him. And I will tell you what, that was inspiring. When you meet somebody in 5th grade and they already know what they want to do.
That's abnormal. That's abnormal. And honestly, because I like to fail towards success, I've learned that I can't know what I like or what I want until I've tasted it, touched it, and fucked it. Yeah. And I don't mean fucked it like penetrated it. I mean fucked it like I thought I knew what I was doing and I fucking didn't.
Yeah.
And that's when I get an understanding of things, you know? But for someone to be like, this is what I want. First of all, he was wrong. When you're 5, you don't know what you want.
No.
But you got to applaud a human being that can make their brain that strong in a single directive.
Yeah.
As I'm sure he did some drugs. I'm sure he fucked somebody over that wasn't chivalrous like a knight. I'm sure he did very un-Navy SEAL-like things until that point. But the focus, the redirection, the application of the pathway that he wanted to take continued. There was continuity between the original desire and the progress forward, and that's why it came to that. Those humans impressed me. Yeah. They impressed me. I'm a flighty bitch.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And for someone like that impresses
From the time
me.
I met him to the time I ran into him again at the mall, freaking 20 years later or whatever, I had freaking had 200 different interests. I had 100 different jobs. Who knows? I don't know how many jobs, but I mean, I had tried a million different things, and some of them I've done okay. Some of them I had failed horribly. I still didn't even know what I wanted to do when I ran into him then.
I mean, all I wanted from the age of 20, from the age of 14 to 35, pussy. It was all I cared about.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I've been married for well over a decade. So that means that for a good handful of those years, it was about pussy. You know, and first of all, if there's a bullet flying towards my wife, I'll take it in the forehead in an instant. Not to be known as a hero, but just because I can't live without her. And it's not, I'm not trying to be, anyone's listening to this, that whole, that's not what this moment is. I'm admitting to cowardice, right? A world that doesn't exist with her is not a world I'm strong enough to be within. So I'd rather fucking die. Simple option. But when I'm thinking about, that's end ultimatum kind of things. But when I'm thinking about what makes me happy or what makes me as a person, it's discovery. Like, I don't know specifically what it is. It's feeling shit out. And when someone like your friend says, I know what I want to be at any age, even at 40, you know, it's still awe-inspiring to me, especially when you can hear a serious foundation of conviction. When there's a real foundation of conviction behind their position, where they're not just like, oh, well, this listening post told me I should think this, so this is what I think. Like, fuck that. That's easy. You just took the watercolor way out. Like, I want someone who's oil painting here. I want someone who's blending ideas. I want someone who's developing themselves as a person. And honestly, I don't think you can get to the level of what I appreciate unless you fail towards success.
Well, and the cool part is that never ends.
Oh,
I mean, I'm going to be 50.
It can if you give up.
Well, yeah, if you give up. But I mean, if you really look at it and you think about it, it never ends. Because I'm going to be 50 next year. About a year ago, I was freaking a regular guest on a freaking podcast on the radio.
Were you? You were a guest on podcasts instead of doing your own?
Well, yeah, I was on the Q podcast on the radio station.
What's the Q?
Yeah, it's dedicated to uplifting things in the community. And
for Oregon or Roseburg?
It's Roseburg. Okay. It was a local podcast.
This town is just tits. I can't tell you how awesome. And I've been to Milan. I've been to Rome. I've been to Interlaken. I've been across this globe, and not just to visit. I lived in London for a year. Roseburg is fucking tits. And not just if you're a veteran, because the VA here is Jesus Christ. First of all, amenities aside, just the grounds. They have 200 acres and it's pristine. Do you want to see deer? Drive on the VA. You want to see geese? Drive on the VA. You'll see them because they've got fucking nature preserves out there. Like, Roseburg is so amazing. And I know that sign says 25,000 population. That's a fucking lie.
No, that's just city limits.
That's a lie. They tell in order to get some sort of government supplementary assistance, because there's no motherfucking way there's 25,000 people here. There's a Lowe's, a Costco, and a Home Depot in a town with quote unquote 25,000 people. fucking bullshit. Like, I don't know who lives here. Does Alito live here? Is there some Supreme Court justice that lives in Roseburg that has justified the fucking infrastructure that's here? Because I'll go to a restaurant that's nice, brand new, clean. I'll go at rush, 5 p.m., 6 p.m. There won't be fucking anyone there. Unless it's Saturday or Sunday, which then I think all the outskirts of the town come in. But Roseburg's a gem. And what's funny is when I first moved here, I'm telling all my friends, this place is fucking incredible. Oh my God. I've lived here a year. You know what I tell my friends now? It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. And you know why? I don't want anyone here. Like, now, if you're lucky enough to strike out and find Roseburg and you decide to do it, I'll be your first person to help you out. As long as you're not asking me to paint or move, then you won't have to go fuck yourself, because I don't do that shit anymore. But, like, this place is amazing. Amazing. It really is amazing. And what's funny is when we bought our house, Zillow doesn't give you a fuck about the town. You know? Zillow just tells you where the house is.
That's all about picking the right real estate agent.
And that was our whole thing, you know? And our real estate agent's like, well, what about schools, kids? I'm like, we don't got kids. And she goes, oh, that makes it so much easier. She like audibly sighed. I saw this woman 10 years left her soul after she found out we didn't have kids and she could help us search for shit, which is funny because we started our search in Salem, right? And we're looking at houses, and Jesus Christ, for the amount of money I wanted to spend, because here's what I wanted. I wanted 1,500 square feet. I wanted 2 acres of land. Does that sound crazy? That doesn't sound... Now, in your brain, didn't I just explain $500,000? Doesn't that sound like $500,000?
No.
What's it sound like?
300,000.
That sounds like 300,000? Okay, so we were way overshooting. We were not competitive in Salem at all. We would make an offer.
That's about what it is now here. But
we would make an offer in Salem, and the look the realtors would give us, if you could bottle up the words "go fuck yourself" in a look, these realtors would have the "go fuck yourself" look bottled up, and they'd pop a cork for us every time we said, we have 500,000 we want to spend, because I didn't want to spend more. I was like, babe, I get that a property on the edge of the cliffs of Dover in the UK is 1.2 million. I get it. Fucking get it. Limestone cliffs etched over millennia? Fuck yeah! But this condo in Phoenix for 1,200 square feet for the same price can eat my prolapsed asshole. This is bullshit. So then we start looking, you know, and that's when we and I'll be honest, I didn't want to do the California thing. You have money, you decide to move to a place because it's nice and it's way affordable, and you're going to fuck everyone else up in the economy that they've built there since they were a kid. And I'll be honest with you, I don't recycle. I think as far as humans, if we don't figure something out, this planet's probably doomed as a species. But I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm just not. Maybe I'm a shitty person. Probably right. If anyone who listens to this is like, well, this Joe guy's a shitty person, I'll be the second person to agree with you aside from yourself. But that being said, when we were buying a house, I was like, I don't want to subvert other people's opportunities who aren't as fortunate as us. I literally was like, I felt that way. And so we looked a lot, which made it challenging to find houses. And then the house that we got, it had been on the market for a year. Not only that, it had its price slashed by $100,000 fucking dollars, and was still on the market for 4 months after that. And you know why? Because the house was built in 65 and the carpet was original, and it had original 1965 foot vinegar built right into it. And I got to breathe that in the whole time I redid that floor. But that's what it was. It was me. I wanted to feel comfortable with the place that I got. And honestly, and I know Jack Smith isn't listening because he's probably 95 and doesn't know about this podcast, is probably deceased. But if any of his children hear this, just know that the house that you and your mother built have brought my wife and I more joy than we could ever possibly imagine. And I've been waiting for the day where I feel like what we've done to the house has made it our home before I reach out to them to say, hey, if you ever need to visit this place to reconnect with where you grew up, I want to make sure I offer that, because this life is short and pointless. And if there's some small degree of comfort I can give you in the terms of nostalgia, I have an easy life and I'd be happy to accommodate you. And that's how much this house means to me. Like, I could almost cry thinking about, because the pandemic hit. My wife and I lived in a house that was 1,100 square feet. We're making 6 figures, but this is the house we live in because we're like, we don't need more. You know why we bought land? Dogs. We don't have kids, so we idolize our dogs, and we wanted that land. And that was the big impetus for trying to find a good property. But I didn't know that we were going to get a house that was hand built by Jack, and all of the little accoutrement and all of the little design. You see that light in your ceiling? That's a fluorescent light. That's an easy install in a drop ceiling. It takes about 20 minutes. I could probably replace that for you in a half an hour. It's simple. This exists. Do you know what he did? His own fucking thing. He cut a hole in the ceiling. He'd frame it with wood. He'd attach a receptacle, which is something that holds a light bulb, to the joist. The joist is a structural element that holds your fucking house up. And that's the light, air quotes, in the kitchen. It's so kitsch, I can't replace it. Because it's retarded. It is original. It is beautiful. It's mind-bogglingly fucking stupid. And it's its own thing. And thank you, Jack. Because this house has made this adventure here in Oregon that much more palatable, that much more rich. You can get a good bottle of whiskey for $50. I mean, shit, maybe 30. 50 if you really want to spend. And there's some complexity where you keep drinking. You drink it, you drink it, you drink it to really inundate the flavor into your soul. And I'll tell you, with this house, I feel the flavor of what you were trying to accomplish in your life in everything I try to do. And it's amazing to feel that connection to this town. Fucking, what the hell's Roseburg? Like, but now that I moved here, first I moved for the house, but now that I'm here, this town is tits. Mike's is some of the best pizza I've ever had in my entire life. And again, had a pizza blog, very passionate. It's a fat guy about pizza.
Did you eat more than one bite?
Oh yeah, multiple. I've had the Mountain 9 times. That's a $50 pizza. So we're several $100s deep in Mike's. And by the way, your next question is, did you have other pizza around town? And yes, I did. Blue was okay. The Blue Cafe, that was all right. They try to do a Neapolitan crust with double hot dough. And if you think I don't know what I'm talking about pizza, I could tell you how many hours you fermented your double hot dough. Yeah. I could tell you how long, if you did an overnight, if you did a half split, if you did a full split. I worked at pizza joints to put myself through college because I didn't want my dad to pay for it because I knew he had money, and this was like a I'm better than you thing, so I had to earn my own way. Dad, if you're dead and listening, I wish I took your fucking money. I am sorry. It would have been way easier to just take your fucking money. I wish I had. But I'm really passionate about my wife and pizza. That's it. All the other hobbies...
That's not it. You're passionate about a lot of stuff.
Well, I can find passion. But the baseline of who I am as a person... And this is going to sound crass, and I won't bring it up again, but I love taking a shit at 5 a.m. I do. I love... I take my time. I'll light some incense. I'll put on some music. I like... If you have Pandora, go to Pandora and search for French Cafe Station. Best music to shit to of your entire life. And you know what? Hey, whatever your thing is, you want to pour yourself a drink at 5 a.m., you want to spark up a doobie, but just really expel that fecal matter at your own rate. Don't push. Like, just really let it fall out of your ass and enjoy that shit. And I love taking a crap. But my wife and pizza are on that same list of passion as a good BM is. And if you can have a good pizza BM and then get laid, woo! Well, that's the trifecta. I've had 4 of them in my entire life. I remember them fondly, and I highly recommend it to anyone. Now, if you're not married and you're looking for something similar, now this might sound strange. Now, if Treasure Island, the hotel, is not your jam in Vegas, I get it. It's not for everyone. But I will say this. Their beds, their sheets, and their pillows, their total spend per room, even a queen-size bed, is $6,000. If you have more than a $6,000 mattress, then you're right. Fuck Treasure Island. But if you don't, I have to tell you, and I've done a lot of research, Wynn, very new, very expensive hotel, their mattress and their bedspread and everything, $1,500. We're talking about a 4X multiple at Treasure Island. Is there a bunch of gay pirate shit? Yeah, it's called Treasure Island. Of course they have gay pirate shit. But is their beds fucking amazing? And the answer is yes. Do yourself a goddamn favor, book a room. Well, wait, Joe, you were talking about all this shit. I'm not finished. You get yourself a slice of pizza, your favorite alcohol, turn on the shower, medium hot, so it's like a sauna, take a shit. Take a shit in that bathroom with that travertine marble, sauna steam kicking, alcohol in hand, slice of pizza, sit on the toilet. I know what you're thinking. This guy has issues. And I get that. I get absolutely. That. No, I get it. I get it. It seems real weird. But if you're ever in Vegas and you have the opportunity to pair this all up and you go, hey, remember that drunk fat guy that was on that podcast I was listening to? Just give it a try. It's not expensive. A slice of pizza, and I think the pizza place, quote unquote Italian pizza place, that's in the Treasure Island, and it's in between where the walkway is for there and the next casino. If you get that pizza and you do this in that room, and then you lay in that bed, even if you're not tired, I promise you, you will go, holy shit, I did not spend a lot of money, and I feel fucking amazing. And that's my gift to everyone who's listening.
Dude, I don't think I could honestly ever eat a slice of pizza
on the toilet
while I was on the toilet. I can't even take food and drinks do not belong in a bathroom.
Well, I'll tell you, as a fat man, when I sit on the toilet, there's no air leaving that toilet. I've got a hermetic cellulite seal.
I got over that by a lot
over that toilet, so there's no poop air hitting your pizza.
I was raised that you do not take food and drinks into the bathroom.
But that's like, imagine if you had your car on a dyno and you've got it pegged, you've got the pedal to the floor, and you're filling it up with gas at the same time. It's the same. You're refilling the tank.
That sounds dangerous to me. I'm not doing it.
Oh no, man! Now you don't actually have to be expelling fecal matter while you take a poop. That's not the important part. It's just the act I'm in the bathroom pooping, and I'm gonna have a bite of this fucking pizza.
No, fuck that. Food cannot go in the bathroom. When my daughter was younger, we were our old house. For whatever reason, kids nowadays like hang out in the bathroom. Like, she would have 2 or 3 friends over. They'd go.
Do you have screen time rules?
What's that?
Screen time. How much time they could be on a phone or a screen?
No, as long as they don't talk to me, I don't care what they're doing.
Because and the only reason I asked, my buddy's friend, he thought his kid had like diverticulitis, and it turned out he just yelled at his son anytime he was on his phone, so his son would be on the fucking toilet. Yeah. And I'm like, bro, I did that for how many jobs in the 2000s? I hated my job. I take a 40-minute shit.
No, this was just like their hangout spot. Like, they would all be in the bathroom taking showers. Like, it was. I was like, what the fuck are you guys doing in there?
I feel like there's a deeper conversation we need to have.
We all took showers and we're hanging out. And I was like, you guys are crazy. Get out of the fucking bathroom. You got a bedroom up there. Just fucking hang out. Anyways, I was doing laundry one day. I go to put the towels away in the fucking closet in the bathroom.
You have a closet in your bathroom?
We did in that house.
Holy shit.
I went to put the towels away.
See, I'm used to doing the naked, you covering everything up, even though you're the only person in the house, like the 40-foot walk to the linen closet.
Oh, no, this was okay. Upstairs. We lived downstairs. But I went to put these towels away, and I find a half gallon of fucking ice cream with fucking 2 different spoons. It's empty.
What?
Like, they took this half gallon ice cream in the bathroom, and we're sneaking it, and then they were too lazy to bring it to the fucking.
Where did you find it? Where
hid behind the towels. I was like, you motherfuckers.
Holy fuck. Because it wasn't an afterthought. The subterfuge, there was some strategy put into it if they were trying to duck it behind shit.
God, those kids fucking drove me nuts,
Oh,
dude.
my God. How old were they?
They were teenagers. This is the same time period where my daughter...
See, if my wife could give birth to teenagers, I might have got her knocked out.
Oh, God.
No, for reals. Like, no, that...
No.
All of my buddies are like...
The fact that you said that tells everybody that you legit know nothing about kids.
And the only reason I say that is because my buddies who have teenagers idolize me. And I've learned why. 1, I'm not their father. 2, I'm cool as shit when it comes to alcohol or, let's say...
You are literally like a teenager.
No, 100%. You want to... If you come to my house and you see my garage, you're going to laugh your fucking dick off. Because I've got RC planes, guns, Nerf guns turned into steampunk guns, a weightlifting set, like everything that any teenager would ever be like, oh, I've got that in my fucking house. And that's why. And you know what? It leads me into a thought of the story I was going to tell you. This is kind of the epitome of who I am as a person, is this story. So I'm studying abroad, and I'm in London. Okay? I'm living there, and I'm living there for a semester. And I'm living with other Americans in my dormitory, this whole floor of this building dedicated to Americans studying abroad. So we all decide together, let's do a Euro trip. We'll go to a couple different countries, right? We'll explore together. It'll be safer than going by ourselves. That's a good argument. So yeah, let's do it. So I won't bore you with a bunch of trips, right? But we do a bunch of stuff. Eventually, where do a bunch of white kids from America land? You're right, Amsterdam. That's where they land. Now, first of all, I'm not sure if you're not aware of this who's listening. Amsterdam is the land of forgetfulness because it's the land of not short-term memory, because it's the land of marijuana, a casual marijuana, the kind of casual marijuana where having a glass of coffee and a joint before you go into your financial institution for your job, right? As a financier, a banker, a DLM realist, an underwriter, whatever the fuck you do in finance, you still have a coffee and a fucking joint. That's the kind of place we're at. So that's setting the scene for Amsterdam. Well, that's also the scene that Americans have for Amsterdam. But what they don't know, mushrooms are also legal there at this time. Again, this is like early 2000s. That might not be legal now. So we're doing this trip. We go to Amsterdam, and all the other Americans that I'm with are very excited to, and I'm throwing air quotes up here, try marijuana. And I'm like, I went to college at NAU and Flagstaff. Like their mascot is literally a lumberjack with a marijuana leaf on his boot. So I'm just saying, whatever. So we go there, and they're starting to do the typical thing. Well, for me, I was like, I'm not typical. I'm extra. And by the way, I've dialed that back. My life is immensely better. For anyone listening to this, if you think being extra is great, you're right. Dial it back 25%. Your life's going to get better. I fucking promise. Anyways, so we're in Amsterdam, and all my friends who have never smoked weed in their entire lives, they're getting joints. Oh, I'm going to get a joint. Look at this joint. It's got hash in it. You know what hash is? Yeah, it's when you trim pot and you put your hands together and dead skin falls off. That's hash. Like what do you get so fucking excited about? So anyways, so they're all excited. But I see on the menu mushrooms, and I'm like, whoa, that's legal? Oh, yeah, this is legal. You can have mushrooms. They're like, oh, okay. Like,
I'll dig the accent.
What do you mean? Like, oh, yeah, this is fine. This is fine. What do you normally get? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm an American. I look at my pecs. I was in good shape at this time. Just remember that. And I was like, I can handle anything. I was like, oh, this is great. We have something really good. It's this Blue Minis. You know, yeah, it's just a really tiny. It looks like how do you say Husamalia has angel hair pasta. You're like, oh, okay, and like, yeah, it looks like less, but it's actually more. So normally mushrooms, you think of a mushroom and picture in your mind a mushroom. You got the cap, got the stem, all the little gills and everything. I want you to take that picture in your mind. I want you to shrink it down 90%, and then you're like, oh, well, that's dealable. But then I want you to imagine 400 of those. And that's what you bought as a, air quotes, dose. So then you go, oh, well, dose means one person, right? They didn't tell you the serving size on this motherfucker, so you eat all of them. Now, an hour later, you're tripping face. And all your friends, they did all the shit you and your druggy friends wanted to do, and they're bored. They want to do some cultural things. Okay. So we go to the Van Gogh Museum. You know Van Gogh, right? Oh my God. First of all, if you haven't looked at Van Gogh's paintings, and I know you've seen them online and you could probably Google it.
It already looks like you're tripping.
It already looks like you're tripping. Plus, when you see him in person, if you look at the side, the profile of the painting, there's 3 inches of fucking paint. I know when you think of a painting, you're like, oh, it's a smear. This motherfucker had inches of paint on this shit. Inches. Literal inches. So your mind is just flipping out of its gourd. So I have the time of my fucking life with these psychotropics and in Van Gogh. We're having a great time. So there's half of my crew that's sober. This is important to note. Because they're going to decide the next stage of our journey, right? We're in Amsterdam.
They're the babysitters.
They've dealt with us being a fuck case. And by the way, after we got all that and got looped in, if you ever want to have a culinary experience of your life, go to Amsterdam. I know what you're saying. Oh, cool, this fat stoner had good food. No, I know I get it. Fat stone guy probably would like eating paste out of an Elmer's container. But the shit I saw was masterfully, we're talking about confectionery pieces. It was a piece of red velvet cake. It had mascarpone frosting. And it had a card made out of fondant that looked like the Queen of Hearts. Like replicated. Like if you weren't super fucking sober, you would mistake it for a playing card. And that was a $5 piece of cake you could buy on the goddamn street of goddamn Amsterdam. So when I tell you that the food is amazing there, I'm doing it a disservice. So again, we go and do the food thing. So now, my white, fat, domesticated American ass who's stoned to bejesus, and it doesn't matter what, is following along, and they decide to go to this person's house. This person named Anne. This Anne Frank person? I've never heard of her. Who's Anne Frank? Anne Frank. Why do you guys is he like a political? All right, so I guess we're going to this Anne Frank house. Now, I'm shitting you not. I have read hundreds of books at this time. It's to a point where I've read so many books, it was a piece of pride for me as a human being. Because I knew most people hadn't read as many books as I had. I have a larger vocabulary. I'm much more verbose. I use these words correctly, and I sound exceptionally intelligent because of my vocabulary. Which, by the way, if someone has a good vocabulary, it doesn't mean they know fucking shit. Yeah. It just means they know words. So I'm very well read.
But you're also tripping balls.
You know what? Regardless of tripping balls, I have never read Anne Frank. Here's more funny. I could tell you how many milligrams of amphetamines that Adolf Hitler was doing at any given period of World War II. I am that well versed in World War II trivia. And yet,
you never did know shit about it.
I had never heard about fucking Anne fucking
So basically
Frank.
What you're saying is you were just dedicated to being an Aryan.
Yeah. No, seriously. And what's funny is
you were very one-sided in your reading.
What's funny is I know more Hebrew than my best friend who's Jewish. I did the fucking Seder. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu. I did the whole goddamn thing with my buddy who I knew more Hebrew. And the whole reason I learned Hebrew was just to one-up him. But I'm that well connected to this whole world, and I didn't know who motherfucking Anne Frank was. It gets better.
Oh, shit.
So in London, there's this area called Camden. Camden's cool because it was like, I don't know the history of it. I won't pretend to, so that people, I don't know, send into your podcast. This guy didn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Already admitting I don't. What it looks like is a bunch of half-moon brick tubes built underground as like bomb shelters. And since there's no bombs by the time I was there, they turned into shops. And they also had food. Really great. Some of the best fucking pad thai and lo mein I've ever had in my entire... Which in London, you're like, really? Lo mein's this good? You know? But then again, I had only had fucking Panda Express, so my... You know, I didn't know shit about shit. So we're there, and they have extensive World War II surplus. Extensive. And I'm a large human being for London, right? I'm 6 foot. I'm 240 pounds. I'm a big motherfucker, especially for this town, which most people are small in London. So me finding anything that fits me, very slim chances. What happens? I'm in Camden, find this jacket, trench coat, World War II. German badges all over it. Got the German flag over here.
Fits
German
right
flag.
with your knowledge of fucking World War II.
Fucking is horrible, right? Aryan masterpiece. And it fits my tubby giant ass frame perfectly. So I wear this for weeks. I'm going to classes. I'm studying abroad. I go to Tesco's. I buy celery. I'm buying celery wearing this trench coat, right? Because it doesn't matter. We're standing in line. We're standing in line to buy tickets. What are we standing in line to buy tickets to? The Anne Frank house. What jacket am I wearing? One with fucking German fucking flags on each.
Got fucking swastika
fucking
on there.
right. I might as well have a swastika on my goddamn forehead like Charlie Manson. And my buddy comes up to me, Cody, and he's like from Brooklyn. He's got the bags under his eyes. He smoked so many rolled cigarettes, he had a callus. Not a brown mark. He had a callus on his finger from where he smoked. And he comes up like, hey, buddy, you think you should be wearing that jacket in here? I'm like, what? He's like, I think you should take that off. This is about the Holocaust. And I'm like, oh, shit. That's the first I learned about Anne Frank. Anne Frank... Carlos, has something to do with the Holocaust.
You think?
That's it. No, just a little. Just a little. Now, again, I cannot tell you, I am tripping fucking balls off of these mushrooms. Not a little bit. I am tripping face. And do you know how many people were chatting about their day in the Anne Frank house? 0. It was quiet as a tomb. It was so quiet. And like everyone's so
you're
solemn.
talking about your morning shit.
No, I wasn't talking about fucking anything. I felt like the biggest asshole on the planet. Cause I'm not smart, but I'm also not dumb. And 10 minutes into this fucking tour, I realized, God damn it.
It all started connecting.
No, and by the way, when I'm in, I took off that jacket while we were waiting in line to buy tickets, and my buddy Cody came up to me and told me, like, I took off my jacket, did not stop the feeling of being a piece of shit. Since then, I have read her diary. I've read her sister's writings. I am very, very well versed in all that. And that's because I'm very passionate about the Holocaust. Because for any group of humans to do something like that, I'm not okay with it. Like, again, politics and religion aren't my hobby. They're just not. And if you get mad that I said it was a hobby, I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you. I shouldn't call it a hobby, but I will. So get over it. But anyways.
Yeah, fuck you people.
No. They're fine. They're fine. No. I disagree. They're fine to feel that passion. That's fine. Feeling passion is the only point to life. And to deny someone that passion. Now, if your passion's evil, like fucking 12-year-olds, you should be killed. But still, like, if that's how you feel, that's fine. But it was a, I don't know how to say coming of age moment, but it was a realization that has been poignant for me. Enough that I felt like maybe I should bring it up on your podcast. So that was my my trip to Amsterdam.
Dude, I'll tell you what, you can't feel that bad because when my wife and I got together, it was one of those weekends where you're just watching random movies.
Yeah.
Chilling out, Netflix and chill type thing. We've watched the The Boy in Striped Pajamas.
We love Schindler's List.
Fucking great movie, right? My wife, the movie got over. My wife lost her shit.
How so?
She had no clue. Like, she was... Apparently, she must have fucking skipped that whole period of fucking history class. Because she had no idea how that movie was going to end. She had no idea.
Really? Wait, the Germans lost?
Well, no, the whole...
No, I know what you're saying. I'm just being facetious.
The whole concentration camp.
Holy shit.
Freaking gas chamber shit. She lost her shit. She's bawling. She was like...
She should have been.
She's like, are you fucking serious? I was like, are you serious that you didn't know this was going to happen? It blew my mind. To this day, every time we watch any movie from that, we just watched the freaking series. Can't even remember the name of it. It just came out not very long ago, but good series. I think it's on Netflix.
You're really not narrowing it down for me.
Yeah, I know. Anyways.
Handmaid's Tale?
No, it's all about the Holocaust and that shit. But every time we watch anything from that era, like, literally, she must skip that whole period of fucking history class when in high school because she knows nothing about it. And
World War II is amazing to me.
And it kills her every time.
It's amazing. I mean, sure, you can focus on the shit that, Joseph, Goebbels and Mendel, what they did, like the horrible. Sure. Like, you can, and it was bad. I'm not degrading that. I want you to count the number of people, humans, that moved from continent to continent because of this. And then I want you to think about not feeding them for a day, but for a week, for a month, for a year. The logistics of moving that much fucking food. And by the way, food doesn't make a soldier work. You need morale. Yeah. Do you know what they budgeted for morale? Gum! They gave gum to these people who were shooting fucking children in the face.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that some children deserve shooting in the face. If you've got a gun and you're fighting on opposite sides, you're going to get shot in the fucking face. But saying that doesn't stop the kid from Ohio from remembering what it looked like to see that face collapse under the 308 because they knew that.
Yeah.
And if giving them a piece of gum made their day a little better, let's go ahead and budget for some more fucking gum. But you don't think of, you see about the D-Day, this big offensive push, like you don't think about the microscopic impact of that shit, And like, I that's why World War II is so magnificent to me. You think of Midway, you think of all of these areas, these I don't know. I don't even know how to put it. And I'm not usually short for words. I love the sound of my own voice. But this epic World War II is the culmination of human society working towards something.
Well, I think World War II was probably the last time it was like that.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
I mean, yes, we've had conflicts and
not world conflicts,
but
and everyone thought Ukraine would be, but it's not.
World War II was insane. The size of the impact.
And we didn't hop in. Franz Ferdinand died. We didn't hop in that day. It took a while. This shit takes a while, and that's why everyone thinks World War III is going to be a frog in a pot boiling slowly. That's what it's going to be.
World War II. I mean,
World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
D-Day, more U.S. citizens lost their life on D-Day than every conflict and war since then.
Yep. Revolutionary War, Civil War. You're absolutely right.
In that one day.
Not just one day, 7 hours.
Yeah.
Now the conflict was 13 hours on the first initiative, but then within the first 7 is when they measure the statistic you just gave.
Yeah.
7 fucking, and we lost our shit on 9/11, which rightfully so, but we're talking about loss of human souls in that time. Doesn't even come close.
Not even close. Everything since then.
You mind if we pause so I can
oh, not at all, dude.
Run away? My whiskey.
All right, we're back on. we've actually, for everybody that doesn't know, we've been actually sitting here BSing for about an hour. Lucky for you folks, we've continued to drink during that entire hour.
No one missed out on anything.
But we're going to try and wrap up here in the next 15, 20 minutes or so. But I just realized that we haven't been recording forever. So
it's for the best, I trust you. My rambling is not poignant.
We went to take a leak, and that's how it works out. So you might have missed out on some good stuff. You might not have.
That's all right.
We're back now. So.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you. I mentioned earlier that my father had passed away 2 years ago, and both my father and I were very passionate about public speaking. We really liked when a room of 25 to 5,000 people would be looking at us talking. And it's no small surprise that when my father died, I felt like his eulogy needed to be important and needed to be poignant. And for someone like me, and this isn't necessarily a brag, but it is, I've read over 5,000 books. I'm 40, I've read over 5,000 books. And I get it. The first thing you're thinking of was, well, how long were these books? Like 100 pages? I did
got the whole Berenstein Bears.
Right? You know, you mock those in. Like, and honestly, it was all fantasy novels. And fantasy writers love the sound of their own voice, which I can capitulate with. Like, I love the sound of my own voice. So most of these books were 500 to 800 pages. And I know what you're thinking. Game of Thrones, George R. R. Martin. And yeah, I was reading that shit.
That's good shit. You gotta read it.
I was reading that in 97.
Yeah.
Way before HBO knew it was a thing. And I'm trying to be hipster, but yeah, I knew it was fucking good. So I'm very well read. So when my father died, I had this impetus because all of his coworkers, they're all multimillionaires, right? We're talking about people that worked for Intel and Amcor when this shit was just developing. And also, like,
I grew up down the street from Intel.
No, yeah, exactly, right? Like, it was a big fucking thing. And they tromped AMD, and they had a really good basis for infrastructure. So, you know, that was my worry was when I went to this funeral for my dad, it was going to be with a net worth of like, I don't know, $400-500 million, right? These people who are just worth a shitload of money. And the last thing I wanted was for them to be at a friend of theirs that they've known since they were in their 20s.
Thinking you sounded like an idiot.
Looking at their son, being like, who's this fuckwad? You know? Like, that was my biggest worry. So I spent 3 weeks making sure my father's eulogy was flawless. And it was, I'm telling you, I'm talking to people from Samsung, Aerotech, Boeing, Lockheed. I mean, I could just keep name dropping for hundreds, if not billions of millions of dollars. I'm not, and I can't stress this enough. I'm not trying to make myself feel important. I'm trying to help you understand how much weight I felt was on the moment at my father's funeral talking to these people. Because it was big. To me, it was just this kid. I watched my dad hang out with these billionaires. I had billionaires who would use the downstairs toilet in my parents' bathroom that I cleaned piss with Windex off of the toilet seat.
You're like, how come these fuckers can't get it in the toilet?
and we're talking to major players in the tax industry. And I really wish I could name drop right now, but I'm 40 and I've learned that name dropping in my younger years causes for cease and desist and litigation. So we're just gonna gloss over that. And I had this buildup from my father because of all these people I knew So when I gave my eulogy for his passing in front of these people, it didn't have to be good for me. And for them, it was like obligatory. But for me, it had to be existential. It was, as I am a 40-year-old man with no kids, to me, it was the most important moment in my entire life. And I'll tell you the 3 lessons that my father taught me. And the first was, take care of your teeth. I know. I get it. We get all laugh. It's funny. And it should be funny, right? My dad owned so much money. And we're not talking about properties. I'm not talking about stock. I mean, if the guy went into a bank and wanted to fill a briefcase with fucking dollar bills, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars. So the guy was fucking wealthy. Do you know what he couldn't buy? He couldn't buy time. What does that mean? It means he couldn't buy time 10, 15, 20 years ago where he took care of his fucking teeth. Now, does that mean going to the dentist? No! It just means getting a toothbrush, brushing the backs and the fronts of your top and the backs and the fronts of your bottom, and maybe once a week taking one of those flossers. You know what I'm talking about, the old plastic shit with a little string in the center, and like it makes it hurt, and there's blood everywhere, and you're like, why is my mouth bleeding? And you do that, and then a little bit of scope, a little bit of Listerine, right? And that was it. And then the other thing, the last lesson my father was so passionate about was this. This is important. If you invite people to your home, and I want to say this again, if you invite people you care about to your home, to your domicile, to the place where you rest, repose, reflect, the most passionate parts of you as a person, when you invite someone there, if you're going to host guests, ready for it? Host your ass off.
Well,
that's it.
If you didn't care about what they thought, you wouldn't invite them over.
You know, that's fair. That's fair. But for me, it wasn't... when I invite people over, that's the point at which I care about what they think. And that's, for some people, the best night of their lives is seeing me with my cock swinging, my wife's tits swinging, a line of cocaine, you know, some pizza, like that. For some, it was an intellectual conversation about the discourse about morality, about where we were as human beings, about how we could bond with our constituents, and what it meant to feel part of a peer group and to contribute to that peer group, and all sorts of differences and vascularity between, right? What's important is hosting your ass off, knowing who it is that is visiting, and making sure you don't just accommodate to them, but to bring them an experience unparalleled to one that they've had before. That is what it means to truly host. And when my dad passed, I'd be honest with you, I never truly thought about that being the lesson that he was trying to teach. And in all fairness, before he died, I don't even think he had articulated that this position was what he was doing. But after he had died, obviously I had to create a eulogy about his memory, and I was trying to figure out the most important, poignant points of his life. And taking care of your teeth is absolutely one of them. There's 3. One of them, which is what we were talking about right now, was if you're going to host. I'm going to grab some scotch here.
So, I don't want to call you off.
No, I'm going to finish up. When you host your ass off.
You already said that.
And then third, and this was the most important, if you're going to love someone, love them like it's a competition. Love them like love them like it's binary. You've got two options. You got a loser and you've got a winner. And if you're going to love someone, love them like it's the only option.
I like that.
Those are and at my father's funeral. Now, and I'm at my father's eulogy, and I have to give this speech in front of people that the poorest of them have a net worth of 10 million. You know, like that's the cheap guy. And I had to connect with these motherfuckers. I'm like, how do I do that? And I thought about my dad and what he tried to teach us without trying. You know, like there's lessons you try to teach where you're not really trying because it's just like, this is the fucking right way to do things. And then there's lessons where you're like, I need you to know how this works. And this was one of those ones. It was the latter, you know? And he was never explicitly stated. But in all the examples, if my father invited someone over to visit, I was still living at the house, and he hadn't seen them in 20 years, and he was their superior, and they were a subordinate in Intel. He would go to Fry's, which is Fred Meyer, it's the same thing, and he would buy a filet mignon tenderloin. And we're talking, again, this is in like the 90s, the early 2000s. So this motherfucking hunk of meat was like $100. It was, back then it was expensive. And then what he would do is he would cover every square inch of that meat in mustard. Again, this guy is filthy rich, right? He could afford cocaine-topped caviar. Like, he's very wealthy, but he buys this tenderloin cut, he covers it with mustard, and then he buys a fucking bag of rock salt that you would put on your icy driveway in the Midwest. And he covers this really expensive piece of meat with a half-inch layer of mustard and rock salt. Do you know why he did it?
Because it turned out fabulous.
Martha Stewart told him it would turn out fabulous. My dad was a huge proponent of tribal knowledge. My dad loved when someone had tribal knowledge and applied it to a logical situation.
Yeah.
You want to shit on Martha Stewart for inside trading? I get it. Go ahead and shit on her. But she
knows
was
how to cook her ass
No,
off.
she was a genius. She not just cook, she could invest her ass off too.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She was good. And if she didn't get caught like half of our senators should, she'd be a lot better off than them. But anyways, he did this shit full well knowing that he might chuck a $90, and this is in the early 2000s, which $90 was a lot, a $90 piece of meat in the trash and just get McDonald's because he fucked up. That's not the story I tell. The story I tell instead is that there was a shell on this tenderloin. Salt. Hunks. Just sticking out. Left, right, north, south, east, west. Just salt everywhere. And black in this deep, deep mustard, charcoal, Maillard reaction fucking mess. And he would crack that shit off. He would cut slices, slabs. It'd lay on the cutting board. No juice, no protein, no ambioids would come out. It's just this perfect hunk of meat. We wait 15 minutes for it to rest. Then we eat it. And it was mind-blowing. And he tells me, the reason I bring up this whole story, my dad got his first check from Intel. He worked for a company that made wire. They were really popular. And then he moved to Intel. Thought he was doing good. Moved to Intel. Bought this great cut of meat. He does this for some just neighbors, people who live fucking next to us. It's not even anyone worth impressing from a social standpoint. And he was so impressed with the difference, quality, that he could obtain, not just with the monetary leverage that he had from working at Intel, but from the knowledge that he obtained about the culinary arts, that it just ignited a fire in him that didn't stop burning, and it hasn't stopped burning because it's in me. That jerky you had,
and we didn't even talk about that.
I spent hundreds of dollars on that jerky.
It's fucking awesome.
I spent tens of hours grinding the garlic in a pestle and mortar made from sandstone from that marinade. Marinating the meat for exactly 24 hours, 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. Making sure I pulled it out, took all the excess marinade off, put it in specific bamboo skewers, because I won't use pine, mahogany, or alder because it's all shit. Does it sound anal? Sure, it does. But when I think about how much my father put in effort to create the spawn that I am, it feels like the least I can do to make the best motherfucking beef jerky I can.
Well, it's pretty damn good.
If it matters. Thank you, because I'm not going to pretend it matters to me.
Let me ask you a question. So, I know you lost your dad a couple years ago. It's been 6 years, 7 years. I lost my little brother.
Oh shit, not that long.
I lost my little brother. Same kind of thing. My little brother was my best friend. And
you call him a lot?
Dude, we were best friends. I called him Little Brother. That was his name to me. It was Little Brother.
I could cancel my fucking cell phone plan after my father died, because he was apparently, and I didn't know this, he was the only person I ever talked to on my fucking cell phone. I could have saved a shitload of money if I had known that beforehand.
What's funny is when you lose somebody that close, there's so much stuff that you don't even realize until afterwards. You know, you don't realize how much you talk to them. You don't realize how important their opinion was. You don't realize how much stuff that you actually picked up from them. And
you don't realize how human they were.
Yeah, well, and honestly, I was a different person before he passed away. I was super anal about everything. Everything had to be in its place. I was almost OCD. Like, freaking the controller had to be in its right spot. Dude, my daughter was just a baby. Was just young then. And I mean, when my wife and I got together when we were just dating, I used to have I had this, it was an entire fucking page. Like a full notebook page of rules and regulations, basically, of shit that my fucking daycare provider had to make sure was happening. Like, and it was ridiculous. Like, there was stuff on there that was so stupid. Like, one of my rules on there was that she was never allowed to run around in her diaper. She had to have clothes on. I don't care if you just took her out of the bath, you better put some fucking clothes on her before you...
I'm not even a parent. That sounds fucked up.
I mean, there was tons of stuff like that. And I was like that about a lot of stuff. And I got with my wife, and she started reining some of that in.
She calibrated you, yeah.
But I'll tell you, when my little brother died, he was totally the opposite.
How old was he when he passed?
39.
How old were you?
Well, 7 years ago, so I was 41.
You guys 30. Had a lot of time together.
Yeah. So,
but that doesn't mean shit, does it?
Well, honestly, I took it for so much of granted. Yeah.
No, but like, there was a moment, and these are yes or no questions. There was a moment where you realized your brother died, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Definitively.
Honestly, that moment was before he died.
Okay, but like that, there's something poignant about the opportunity cost of learning from someone you love. I bet you I could learn a shitload from both my sisters. Guess what? They're both still alive.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't feel like I'm missing from it. But if one of them died...
You'd regret it every day of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being human's a bunch of shit.
Yeah. So before... Well,
so your brother was in his 30s when he passed?
Yeah. And before he passed away... Anyone that knows me now would never believe this in a million years, but before he passed away, I drank I would buy a 6-pack of beer and it would last me for 2 months. and because I didn't do anything. All I did was work.
Do you feel like that alcohol helps you chase the pain away from his loss?
And honestly, I'm not relating it to that. I'm just saying.
Let me ask. I 100% did.
All I did was work. All I did was work. All I did was care about what everybody at work cared about. All I did was make sure that my family was provided for, and I had zero.
Did your wife and your kids feel like they had enough time with you?
I couldn't tell you because I never bothered caring.
All
I cared about was that I knew I could pay my bills and that everything was taken care of.
Well, that makes sense. But what about now?
Well, now, when he passed away, I was like, you know what?
Did everything change?
Everything changed.
All right, we don't have to go into the weeds of that. I understand.
I started looking at life different.
Didn't you feel like an ignorant piece of shit?
Yeah.
Before he died, you're like, wait a minute. He was alive, and I felt this way. And then the chance of me finding out how he feels about things can never happen again.
Yeah.
And it just kills any sort of detraction you could have had about the other side of things.
Oh, and you don't even notice until afterwards.
Collins, I didn't know how much money I could save by stopping my call plan on T-Mobile after my dad died. You know, as a company, T-Mobile, they send you these fun little graphs that tell you, I'm going to cry a bunch, and I'm sorry.
It's all right.
You can laugh at me. They sent me this graph that shows you how much they use their service. And my father was 97% of the calls that I made in the time that I owned that plan. And what was shocking to me is that I learned this after he died. I didn't know. It sounds crazy because I pride myself on my self-awareness, specifically because my wife and my relationship is very important to me. I didn't know that 92% of my phone calls were to him. And then, I'm sorry about this. When he passed, it took my fucking legs out from under me. It did. Because I thought I'm self-sufficient. I'm wealthy. When I want to buy something, I buy it. When I want to know something, I contact a professional. I pay them money and I get an answer that I can trust. I didn't know that I didn't need to own a cell phone until after my dad died. It's crazy. He was the person I talked to on my cell phone the most. And I didn't even
realize it.
I didn't even know that at the time. And I apologize for getting so emotional on you. And as funny as I could think of if he's watching me, he'd be like, can you get this gay shit over with so we can talk about guns some more? But I honestly, in the moment, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I mean, I talked to coworkers, I talked to my wife. My best friend I've known since I was 3. And my second best friend, my mom and his mom touched bellies together while they were pregnant after Brownie Scouts. So, we're talking real tight. And yet, my dad leaving me, it still hurts.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend
Oh, dude, it does, and it hurts the worst times. Like, you will, honestly, for me now, stuff will happen, and just the other night, I was sitting with my wife on the porch, and I was telling her, if my little brother was still around, he would be like my business partner. There's so much stuff we'd be doing together, and he's gone, and I can't do that, but, It's those little things, those little
There's
moments
two
that
moments.
happen.
There's the one moment where you want to just go, fuck! You know, you just want to scream it as loud as you can until your fucking throat feels like you swallowed sandpaper. And then there's another part that goes, if they're watching me and they're seeing me do this, they're bored as fuck. And the least I could do is be a little more productive than my fucking gas has been, and just maybe make a sale, create something, like be better. Like it just, but there's that moment that just,
the worst for me is
hurts
when something happens and I almost forget that they're gone, and I'm like, oh, I need to give him a call and tell him about this. This was amazing. And then you're like, oh, I can't do that.
My therapist said this was extremely important. It's not that you forgot they were gone. It's that they were so poignant in your life that you can't imagine them not being around.
That makes sense.
Because when you say, I forgot they were gone, it puts the impetus on you and your memory. And then the action is a deliverable. What's the deliverable? You fucked up. You failed. You failed as a life partner. You failed as a brother. You failed as a significant other. And you know what? It's not fucking true. It's not true. And you know why it's not true? They're dead. So there can't be failure past that point. And when my dad died, Carlos, I had 3 psychiatrists. Not 1, not 2, not 3. I spent $28,000. You know why? If I hadn't spent $28,000, you wouldn't be having a talk with me. You'd be having a talk with a corpse with a shotgun in his mouth. Because I wasn't well.
Yeah.
So, that was what got me right again. But once I got on the other side of it, it was trying to figure out all those areas that I can positively impact that also made me feel good. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm sitting in your chair talking on your podcast, because I felt like I might be able to give some sort of good to someone. And that's it.
I think I'm the opposite. I don't think I was actually living my life.
No?
My little brother died. And I think,
how old was he?
Like I said, 39.
39.
I think him passing away actually it actually woke me up and made me start living my life. Because I think I was so conservative about everything. So cautious about every decision.
That's what smart people do, though, Carlos.
Yeah.
No, they're careful.
I was too careful.
Bill Gates. You know who he is?
Oh, yeah.
That poor motherfucker. That guy said that his biggest failing was that he was too careful.
Yeah. And I think that's true. And I don't think...
You know who Andrew Carnegie is?
Oh, yeah.
He also said, I wish I was more bold.
Yeah.
The richest motherfucker in American history. And he said, I wish I was more bold.
Well, and
what's the right answer?
It. But I don't think I would ever be where I'm at right now if my little brother wouldn't have passed away. Because I don't think I would have taken any...
You wouldn't have tried this hard? Okay.
I wouldn't have done anything. I would have kept on doing what I was doing.
And he died at 39?
Yeah.
So your life was worthless until then.
In hindsight, looking back, I kind of feel that way.
Now, when you say that, does that mean you didn't?
Because I had my daughter.
No, I get it,
and that stuff. And
take all your family. It's not a part of the equation. Let's take the species. Homo erectus. I'm sorry, Homo sapien.
Yeah,
we are Homo sapien. Do you feel like you contributed to that species?
Not until then. I think I was just like a zombie almost. And
you know what's fun?
I didn't.
You don't have to be right. You don't have to be right about your opinion, either when you decided or right now when you're your ass.
No, it's just my
talking
opinion.
my stupid ass.
It's just an opinion.
Sure.
You're right or wrong. It doesn't matter.
But how you feel about your life is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I know when my little brother passed away, it was a defining point in my life. It sounds like when your father passed away, it was a defining point in your life. And
how long did he pass away?
It's been, I think, 7 years ago now.
Does it still hurt?
All the time. It's one of the only things that makes me emotional now.
Fuck, I wish you didn't say that. My dad's been gone 2 years.
Oh, you got years to go, dude.
Name an object. Just name it.
What do you mean?
Just name an object. I can buy it.
Well, that doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought it did.
No.
I thought that being able to buy whatever you could name would make me happy. You know what I can't buy?
You'd give it all up for 5 more minutes with your dad.
6.
Yeah.
6 seconds. If I could just tell him how much I appreciated what he did, and tell him how much I am happy about the life that I have. Jesus Christ, I can't tell you how many things I would sell for that moment. But that's the funny thing about life, isn't it? I have a nephew. My older sister had 1 kid. His name's Riley. He just turned 16. Riley calls his grandparents twice every week. How many times did you call your fucking grandparents? He is the best human being I've ever met.
Yeah.
He has no idea, but the millions and millions and millions of dollars that my wife and I have accumulated go all to him when we die. He has...
Is he your only nephew?
No clue.
He's
He's not. My sister has kids as well, but I haven't connected to them. And I will admit that's my own failing. But I know enough people to know that most people don't call their grandparents every week, including their parents, to see how they're doing. No one's that good of a person. And my nephew Riley is.
But you know what, though?
And that's why when my wife and I pass, the hundreds of millions of dollars that we accumulate, it'll be his. And you know why I don't feel bad about giving him that money? I know unequivocally he's a good person.
Wow.
I have given to charities. I have given to helpful organizations. I have helped Doctors Without Borders. We've done a lot. And I'm not a hero. I'm actually the farthest from a hero you could fucking ever count. I'm inappropriate, I'm irreverent, and I'm definitely not marketable.
Yeah, but you're pretty funny.
That's true. But GoDaddy does not put me in front of investors because I'm very honest. And they need someone that dissembles a little bit. And that's okay. But I haven't met any of my bloodline that deserves all of the assets my wife and I built more than him. And what's funny is my wife and I are probably going to die in our 70s or 80s, whatever. And he's going to get $100 million just dropped in his fucking lap in an instant. And I have already written 14 pages. If you're curious, take Windows, open Microsoft Word, find a long document. If you don't know what a long document is, look up Don Quixote, Man of La Mancha. All right? Yeah. I want you to look at that. Put it at size 10. Size 10. This is important. It'll default to 8. Size 10. What I have written about my life and about why my nephew deserves what I have built is 26 pages. Don Quixote, the Man of La Mancha. And that's translated from original Romanian to Armenian to English. And for anyone who's sober or cares enough to look, they can find this transition point. Her name is Lauren Romansha. And that was what I based this off of. That's everything. And honestly, my nephew deserves all of the effort. I've never met any human being under the age of 20 that calls their grandparents as much as this kid does. He's amazing. And he can't possibly be doing it to get money because...
Yeah, kids don't think about that.
Well, not just that, but neither of their grandparents live rich lives. They don't know that my fucking mother is worth 4 commas. You know the first comma is 1,000? You know the second comma is 1,000,000? He has no idea how much this fucking money means. And she is filthy fucking rich. The problem with that knowledge is that you live differently.
Yeah.
Now, wait, this is important. I didn't say better.
No, different.
I said differently.
In fact, most of those people live worse lives.
How many times have you read about someone winning $500 million and it ruins their life?
All the time.
It happens. So
dude, I'm freaking lottery winners, dude, all the time, dude.
So I'm worried about my nephew getting our inheritance after we die and ruining his life. Do you know how I'm mitigating against that? I am studying repose. The word repose is an interesting word in the English vocabulary. It means being reflective on one's past for the purposes, this is important, reflecting on one's past for the purposes of improving one's future.
I think when a kid reaches a certain age, and I don't know what that age is, it's probably different for everybody. You got to figure out what that age is. There's a certain age, and somewhere in the teen years, where they realize, I'm going to inherit all this fucking money.
Oh, by the way, he has no idea. Yeah. He has no idea.
Well, I'm saying, when he reaches that age, he's going to realize. But there's also an age where they don't care about that money. They're just doing what they do. Somewhere in that mix, you got to catch them. And that's when you got to start teaching them.
Do you know when I'm going to die, Carlos?
How the fuck would I know when you're going to die?
So, if you don't, do you think I know?
Unless I'm going to do it. Because I can tell you right now.
I can promise you, I will never do anything that warrants you killing me. I promise. But you don't know.
No.
And you know what? If you don't know, I have less idea.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You got to try and figure out that little stop
in
your life.
You don't, though. And that's what the point I was trying to make. I get that environment dictates development.
Yeah.
I get that. Whatever environment my nephew lived in, he is who he is now. That's a fact. I have spent time with my nephew recently, and he's a much better person than I was when I was at his age. That, to me, tells me he deserves to have what I have when I die. Why? I worked hard, really hard, to get to where I am at. And if he's there, he worked harder. He deserves more. That's it. That's how I feel about shit. I didn't have kids. Now, 2 of my sisters have had children. My younger sister, they're like 4 and 6. I don't know them. They don't have personalities to me.
Well,
and
they're young. They probably don't really have personalities.
They don't. And Riley is like 15, 16 now. And like, this kid has worked at a fucking barbecue shop. Like, they sell barbecued meats. He's saved up $6,000 in a year.
Actually working.
Did you ever have $6,000 in your pocket at 15?
Not in my pocket. No.
Do you know how much drugs and pussy I could have bought at fucking... Oh my God! I could have got an 8-ball and fucked my way through the entire cheerleading squad. Yeah. Like, it would have been amazing. But this kid, all he cares about is feeling like he's doing well. His dad, Scott, him and my sister did not work out well, and I don't have to delve into that, but he is an exemplary human being.
Good.
And my wife and I, again, no kids. I've worked for a $1 billion tech company for 12 years, and I am extremely high up in the company. My wife has worked in HR for 20 years, and she is now a director of all HR for the state of for Oregon. We're very well off. We're going to have a lot of assets when we die. How do you decide where that goes? Honestly...
Yeah, you don't have kids.
I haven't met a better...
You can be crazy people and leave them to your dogs.
I haven't met... And you know what? I love my dogs. Fuck them. I'm sorry. No, really.
I appreciate that because I hate people that leave their shit to their animals.
If Dutch or Bodie get sick, I'll cut off a foot. If they need to take off my left foot at the ankle, I don't care. I'm 40. I'll figure it out. I'll get a fake foot. If I need to go into debt, like whatever it takes to make their lives, their ends, happy, I will go to those lengths to make those dogs happy.
Well, yeah, you said that you spent like fucking $11,000 on them.
Oh yeah, they got parvo. No, and one of them, Dutch, he had a feeding tube, is shoved into his nose. It went down his throat to his stomach to pump food in there, and then because he kept moving around, they stitched it. They stitched it to his fucking face so that the feeding tube wouldn't move. No, we did a lot of shit to keep them alive. And, like, for how much money and effort that took, it pales in comparison to how much my wife and I will leave behind when we die. And it's important to note, we are built off of the success of generational wealth.
Yeah.
Her father worked extremely hard to get the basis that he does, and same with my father. So, as far as do we deserve it, they worked hard. Yeah. Do we deserve it? I'll be frank with you.
Sounds like you guys worked pretty hard.
No, I mean, yeah, sure, but not hard enough. I don't think I worked as hard as my dad did to get this. Now, for my nephew, Riley, to get what we had, did he work hard enough? Here's what's funny. I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
I love him. I like him as a person. I want his life to be easier. So, I'll give him that leg up.
So, it's funny because he's your nephew. And you don't have kids of your own.
Nope.
But that's the whole goal of having kids of your own. Is that you want their life to be easier than yours.
Which is funny because, yeah, my sister and her husband, well, not my sister, but her husband, they're very wealthy. And I'm sure that he'll get some sort of severance from that. And honestly, that doesn't factor in as a metric.
No.
For me. Because I'm like, there's a couple of hard and fast facts here. I will die. Dead. No more decisions. No more opinions. No more, hey, can we do that? You're fucking dead. You don't get to think shit. You are fucking dead. So at that point, what? That's what you have to figure out. And I was like, well, if I can't make my voice heard, who would I want to benefit from all the leverage that I've developed? And honestly, it's him. It's my nephew. And I'm sure if I had a kid, it'd probably be them as well. But I didn't.
Unless they were an asshole.
Yeah, you know what? It's weird, though, because I've seen my friends who have asshole kids, and they still are behind them.
It doesn't matter. If it's your kid, you're going to stand behind them no matter what.
To a point. I have seen parents of children, and children are child rapists, and that is where the line gets drawn.
That's a little extreme, yeah.
No, not a little. It's the most.
That's a lot extreme.
It's the most extreme. And although you love your child, if you find out that that's who they are, that love starts to stop. You know, like that. It's like, you can't.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And again, do you know how many kids I have? 0.
Yeah.
And yet, as someone who's 40, wealthy, who doesn't have kids, and I'll admit it, I'm wealthy, who doesn't have kids, you fuck with that shit, I'm sorry, but prison's not enough.
Yeah.
You need to be tortured. Because when you're a kid, you don't understand the consequences of pain. You don't know what it means to carry the feeling of being raped when you were 10 till the time you were 30. And we're just 10 years old. You got raped. Well, 20 years. Get over it. That's not how this shit fucking works. When you've been violated by your soul, there's no age. There's no chronology. There's no demarcation between that point and the next. You just feel disadvantaged. You feel pained. Feel unworthy. And you shouldn't. Like, because you weren't diminished by someone else's stupid action. Like, and it just... And that was another point to me telling Katie, my wife, I'm like, I can't have kids. I'm like, if anything happens to me, I have the technological know-how, I have the finances, and I own some pretty sweet guns. I could take care of this shit myself. But when your kid wants to die because their soul hurts, I might be smart, but I don't know how to figure that shit out.
Yeah. And
I've already had a really close buddy of mine with a daughter that had that shit go happen. And I'd be in jail. I'd be in jail because you would read about me on the news about how I am the flaying killer and how I took every square centimeter of that guy's flesh off of his body while I cut every piece of meat with salt and laughed and videotaped it and put it on fucking Periscope or YouTube. I'd go nuts if somebody did shit like that to one of my progeny. You think you've seen bad serial killers? You've never known torture like the shit you've seen I would do.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people think that, oh, you fuck with my kid, I would. But I know I have the free time, I have the money, I have the intelligence, and I have the capability to do something like this.
Yeah.
And so...
Hopefully you never have to deal with that.
Well, I don't have kids, so I don't have to worry about it. So long as no one ever fucks up my wife, we're good. And she's pretty easy about not involving herself in stupid situations. So
you said she's pretty low-key, so...
She is very low-key.
I tell you what,
my wife is the polar opposite.
After you and I spending this afternoon together, I guarantee you and your wife are going to hang out with me and my wife.
Oh, yeah?
It's going to happen, dude.
Hey, man, you invite us out to a barbecue, whatever, we'll be there. I think that'll be fun.
Yeah, dude, that's what we're going to do. We're gonna sit on my porch. We're going to smoke a cigar, have a glass of whiskey.
Fuck yeah.
And our wives are going to talk about stupid shit that we don't care about. Probably plants and stupid shit like that.
Hey, I don't go, just like I came here with a $100 bottle of whiskey. I don't come to a place empty-handed.
I don't
and here's the other thing.
Stuff,
when people just bring a nice bottle of wine, it's like, oh, hey, you spent money. That's gay. Like, for me, I want some effort. I want some... So, that jerky I brought you, have you even tried? It's just still wrapped. It's still got string on it.
I already ate the other package.
Okay. All right. You had it the other day.
I'm saving this because I told my wife about it. And she goes, well, did you save me any? And I said, no.
Bro, do you
you saved my life by bringing me
Do you have any idea how much effort I put into...
I do.
Like, look, I'm just going to give you one quick point. I told you I hang it. You know that, right?
Yeah. And now I know you hang it on barbecue or on bamboo skewers.
I'm glad you brought that up. Do I just hang it on bamboo skewers? Or do I hang it on non-bleached, sun-emitted bamboo skewers? And the answer is yes. Because Kroger's, Fred Meyer, Safeway, and Sherm's all sell barbecue skewers that are, what's the word? Bleached. They use bleach in order to take tannins out of the color of the wood. You are
so anal about everything you do.
That my barbecue skewers are hand-hewed oak or ash or alder. That's the only things I will use.
That's funny, dude.
I'm picky.
Well, so I told you at lunch, it's become this will be our first ever actual annual event because we just started last year.
All right.
But I know it's going to be a regular thing now. My wife and I, we have this party that we started this last year we call it the Ugly White Dipsmas Party. during Christmas time, and it's because we do an ugly sweater type thing going on.
All right.
We got a white elephant thing going on, and then everybody that comes to the party is required to bring a dip, some kind of a dip, and if there's special stuff you have to dip in your dip, you got to bring that. And then we give out prizes, and we have fun. We play some games, and it's like the only thing we do all year that we don't allow kids to. Because
there you go.
We have grandkids and kids and everything else, so we always have kids at our house. But it's like the only thing we do that's like an all adult thing, and I think for sure we're gonna give you an invite.
Oh, we'll be there.
I think you guys will be freaking fun as hell to have that. But I guarantee we're gonna hang out. Your wife and you and my wife and I. I'm gonna have you guys out, and I'd love to have you guys out just because you're freaking a genuine person. I love it.
We'd love to be there, man.
I love it. We've been talking. This is the longest episode I've ever recorded. And that's not including the hour that you and I were talking when we went to take a pee and never started recording again. So that doesn't even count. But I really appreciate you being on the show, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you being here. I look forward to the next time.
What's funny is you told me at lunch that your wife couldn't believe that you were going to be on a podcast because you're such a private person. But since I've known you, you've been one of the most open people I've ever met. So I don't know if maybe that's because we just clicked or what, but
you know what?
It
was the decision of where I could be public, because I haven't been a hidden person my entire life, but I have engaged with the, for lack of a better term, the firearms community in Arizona. And I'm sure there's a lot of different ways that I could put this, so I'm just going to put it this way. I've never felt more accepted than when I went to UMCO Survival. From my first engagement with Leon, to you, to Sean, to Anthony, just everybody. There was a sense of, because I don't know what I'm doing with this gun thing. And let's be honest, gun hobby, boy, it ain't cheap.
No.
But something about purchasing with you all made me feel like if my research was wrong,
we'd tell you about it.
You take care of me. And that was the largest impetus for me feeling like not only in money, but in time and love and joy that I can invest, that it was worth doing here.
Yeah.
Well,
I told you, part of
it was a lot of the community you've built around here.
Yeah. Well, and I want people to feel welcome when they come in here, and I want people to feel like they're talking to people that know what they're talking about. I mean, you go to some of these big box stores and stuff, and they've got people behind the counter that, they don't know anything. I mean, you talk to them. Some of my competitors here in town, you go there, they'll flat out tell you, go talk to Carlos or go talk to someone at Umpqua Survival, because they don't know the answers.
Well, here's the problem is, as a consumer, you walk into a store, and as a consumer, you ask for the best, right? That makes sense. You're a consumer. You're spending money. You want to consume. You're looking for the best. And when you talk to your representatives,
well, the best is
what they tell you. Exactly. They try and figure out, well, what is the best for you?
Yeah.
Right? Is it this? Is it that? Is it more of this? Is it less of that? Do you want a sling? Is optics important for you? Do you need a high caliber? Are you only shooting 50 yards? Are you hunting squirrels? Are you not hunting anything? You just want to make gongs sing.
Involved, yeah.
But you could spend months Googling that, or you could spend an afternoon talking to Sean, Leon, and Anthony, and help to figure out what it is, dial in, if you will, what's going to scratch that itch.
Yeah.
And and I'll be honest, and I'm sure as a business owner, it's not something you want to hear, but, you know, I've talked to your employees and they've helped me to realize what I wanted to achieve. And some of them were purchases that weren't happening here.
Well, sometimes that's the way it is.
But at no point did I feel like there was an air of go fuck yourself from any of your employees. Yeah. They're just like, oh, well, yeah, we don't have, you know, like that's not something we do. But, you know, and not only did they say we can't, most companies can't do everything, especially when it comes to firearms. Holy shit. But they had the next step. They said, hey, look at this. Go read into this. Go check out this website. And that was the thing that kept me back here. That's the reason that's the reason I agreed to a goddamn podcast with you.
Well, honestly, so I am a huge proponent of customer service. And since I've been here, since I took the store over, I've always told everybody, you know, our biggest thing is making sure the people that walk out the door walk out with what they need, not necessarily what they came in wanting. You know, we've had people that come in telling us what they want, and I've flat out refused to sell it to them. Told them, that's not what you need at all. I've had people that came in here to buy a concealed carry pistol and told them that they really should go get training before they buy a pistol because they have no business having a gun in their hand.
Oh, that's great.
I've had people that come in here looking for certain items and talked them out of it. I've had people that I've had to refer to buying things online because what they want is $200 cheaper online than I can get it for. And yeah, it sucks that I can't get that sale, but I know in my heart that when you treat a customer that way, they're gonna come back to you because
let's just look at the dozens of purchases I have made online.
Yeah.
Could I have gone to the pawn shop down the street?
Absolutely.
Just for that transfer fee. Don't you make a profit after that transfer fee? Of course you do.
Yeah.
And the reason I come to you guys for that transfer fee is 100% for that attitude. Like it really is. I don't feel like I'm going to be persecuted or ridiculed because of what I want to buy. Especially, retarded shit I just bought. 410. It's the most.
We tried to talk you out of that too. So
oh my god, you tried so hard.
If you end up freaking hating it,
no,
we were gonna give that to you,
bro. I've been shooting 410 since I was 11. I've been killing quail with a 410. With a fucking, what was it? I have a breech load 410 that I've probably killed 4 dozen quail with and eaten, skinned, flushed, eaten, and I didn't pay a company. I fucking did it myself in the goddamn the Oak River in fucking Sedona. Like I've done this myself, and it wasn't about that though. It was about feeling like I could do something on my own. You know, that really was what it was. But now, this gun interest has morphed into more of a pairing of functionality with aesthetic. I don't want verse aesthetic. I want functionality to be the primary. It's a gun. It takes a bullet. It moves it through the air. But it needs
to look cool as shit.
That being said, if you can have it have flowers on it or be tits, like that's better.
Who would possibly put flowers on a gun?
You know, someone crazy, a true serial killer would put. Aside from your MP5, of course, but like that's it. It's like what you're an old fat man. What makes you happy? This. Can you make it? Cool. And then here's me as an old fat man. Sitting with my HK, which is way overpriced. 416, which is way overpriced. With a fucking Yankee Hill Machine suppressor, which is way overpriced. And I'm just looking at my lap going, I own this motherfucker.
Yeah, I don't have enough walls for fucking paintings.
Why?
So all my art goes in gun cases.
No, why? Exactly. No, I love it. And it's funny. I have... What's this? I have 600 rounds of 22 long that shoot out of that 416. That was the day I got it. Do you know how many rounds I have left? 400. I have only shot 200 fucking rounds out of that gun. And I was like, well, what was the point? I'm like, well, if I think about it, it wasn't about shooting the gun. It was about owning the gun. And then you go, okay, we've identified that. Why? Why is owning the gun important to you? Why does that make you feel good? And I've learned that for most of the gun population, their dicks get hard at amendments. As soon as it's like, oh, this amendment my country said gets my dick hard, I'm going to protect my... You know what's funny? You know why I like these guns? It's the worst reason. They're cool.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
That's the only reason I like mine.
I am 40. There's this game called Counter-Strike that came out when I was a teenager, and all of the coolest guns at the time. What were the coolest guns? I'm glad you asked. The UMP-45, the fucking MP5, the FAL, the M101A. Like, just there's so many goddamn guns that game had. The PS90, they were amazing. I'm 40. I'm fat. I can't... If you try and put me through an Army PT test, I will vomit. If you try and put me through a Navy PT test, I will vomit. If you try to put me through a Marine PT test, I will need active support. Physical, vomiting, blood clotting support. So why, as a fat, fucking pale 40-year-old bastard, do I want these? I'll tell you.
It's because of that video game.
That goddamn video game. Because Counter-Strike... Now, if I was at that age in the 90s and it wasn't gay to like anything other than weapons, let's say it was cool to like gardening. Guess what? We'd be in this podcast and be like, I got these gardening needles I've wanted my entire life. But that's not how shit fucking played out. Fucking shit played out like this game called Counter-Strike existed. I was fucking a teenager. I got my dick hard every time I had a really good gun. And
now you're finally old enough.
I'm 40 and I can afford that shit. And that's why it's how it manifested. And you know what? For any of you that don't give a fuck about guns and wanted a Corvette when you're 20,
it's
you're
all the
40,
same. It doesn't matter what you're talking about.
buy that Corvette. Buy it.
Yeah.
Buy it. Your wife's not going to leave you. Just tell her you'll sell it for the loss. Just, life's short. Drive that Corvette like you fucking stole it, man. I shoot my guns like I stole them. It's amazing.
It's all the same shit. With guns or cars or freaking gardening or...
The only thing it's not the same is drugs. Yeah. And I'll tell you that. For anyone that's listening, I'm not going to lie.
We're talking about physical things.
Drugs are awesome. No, I know. You hear that and you go, oh shit, I should do them. And I get where you're coming from when I say that. Drugs are awesome. But they are. But here's a problem. They're too awesome. And I know what you're saying. You're like, well, how could something be too awesome? Have you ever thought about the fact that your nose isn't runny right now? I know. You're like, what is this drunk fat asshole talking about? No, seriously. Have you ever had a runny nose because you have a cold? Sure. Duh. Obviously. Duh. But in the past 3 months, have you had a runny nose? No. Obviously. No. Duh. But have you taken the moment during those months where you didn't have a runny nose and said, thank God I don't have a runny nose? No. You fucking haven't. Because that's not how humans work. Yeah. So how do you... So once we recognize that, we go, how do we optimize the moment? That's a great question. I can't answer that for you. For me, it was finding out what I was passionate about. I have 8,000 hobbies. And that's hyperbole. I probably have 4 dozen.
We didn't even get into
Dude, I can't even tell you how many hobbies I have had. From knitting to blacksmithing, to oil painting, to sculptural elements through alabaster, to perler beading, to wilderness survival in the desert.
Instruments,
bro.
and everything else, dude.
I can name clarinet, saxophone, flute, guitar, bass guitar, drums, harpsichord. I could keep going. I know I have and not just like I can play hot cross buns. I can jam. If you got a buddy who wants to jam, give me a clarinet, fucking guitar, give me a harmonica, and I will jam with them like Jethro Tull. It'll be awesome. It'll be great. But out of all of those hobbies, the only thing that's remained constant for me is something new. So if you're ever trying to find that shit that makes you who you are, I could tell you definitively, it's not what you do. It's who you do. You need to find another human in your life to connect with. My wife doesn't give a fuck about scotch. She doesn't give a fuck about whiskey. She doesn't give a fuck about guns. She doesn't give a fuck about 90% of my interests. So why are we best friends? Because we give 100% about a fuck of each other. That's it. That's the magic. I want to know what she's into. And I'm really excited to tell her what I'm into. And that's everything. That's fucking everything. Now, if you're asking, well, how do I accomplish that? Bro, I'm not that smart. I can't. I don't have all those answers for it. I could give you pieces. I'm 40. I am well off. I'm happy in my life. If I die on the drive from your goddamn gun store to my house, do you know what my dying thought will be? I nailed it. Well, life is.
I kind of feel like I might have to give you a ride home. So
no, my wife's picking me up. Don't worry about it. I'm good at, but I'm a Boy Scout. Contingency plans are my fucking bread and butter. They get me wet.
Well, I'll tell you what, dude. I think that's a good place for us to end off.
Perfect.
It's been awesome having you.
No, it's great to talk to you.
It was hard as fuck for me to do my research to get ready for it.
And I'm a ghost, man. It's not your
I didn't even
fault.
touch half the shit I wrote down. So I might have to have you back on one of these days.
I love hearing the sound of my own voice, man. Have me back.
But this has been great. I appreciate you coming on the show. And I think people are really going to love it. I love it.
Oh, I'm sure that's full of shit.
No, dude. People love people that are passionate about what they talk about. And you are super passionate.
Well, hey, if you all want to hear another fat white guy's opinion, I am full of them. So I'm happy to tell you about it.
I love it, dude. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And I guess I think that's about it for the day.
Sounds good, man. I can't wait till our prequel here.
Right on. Well, thank you, and everybody, thank you for listening. And until next time, you guys have a nice night.